Good morning, everyone. If we could, I'd like to ask everybody to take their seats. If you haven't had a chance to do so, I'd ask you to please sign the sign-in sheet. There's a sign-in sheet at the front table, and there's also a packet of materials that we'll be discussing this morning at the front table as well. My name is Derek Beetzel. I'm a counselor to Assistant Secretary Kevin Washburn in Indian Affairs. This is initially scheduled as tribal consultation, which is mandated by the Department of Interior to have discussions about policies that may or may not have an effect on Indians in the United States. So Executive Order 13175 requires the Department of Interior to consult with Indian tribes anytime policy may or may not affect Indian tribes. So that was the purpose of this morning's meeting. But I know we have a lot of folks outside of the federally recognized Indian community. We have a lot of Native Hawaiians here. And we've spoken to tribal leadership, and so the meeting is open for everyone in the room. So I just wanted to make that known on the record. We have a court reporter here today, and she'll be transcribing everything that's said today. So later on, when we move into the comment phase of this morning's session, please be sure to speak clearly, state your name before every statement. That way she can have it down for the record. And the transcripts will be available later. So this morning, we're here to discuss advance notice of proposed rulemaking. We wanted to start by asking Vice Chair Deborah Parker from the Tulalip tribe to give us a welcome this morning.
Siaya, Baratu, Sitsayotsa Sitsa, Deborah Parker, Board of Directors for the Tulalip Tribes. Good morning, friends and relatives. We welcome you here to Tulalip. That's our traditional name, and the name comes from Landlocked Bay. And my indigenous name here is Sitsayotsa, and that's my grandmother's name 7 generations back. And so on behalf of my family, on behalf of our tribe and our nation, we welcome each and every one of you here today. And we pray that wherever you come from, that you enjoy your stay here and that you have safe travels back. We welcome my good friend here, Derek Beetzel. I know he's a hard worker for Indian country, and we're very proud that you're here today and that it's being hosted here in our traditional lands here. I was talking to Derek about the sensitive issue of recognition and who you are. And I've always been taught who you are is where you come from, is where they say home is where your heart is. But to me, it's wherever you carry yourself, it's how you carry yourself. It's your language, it's your whole being. We talk about the fabric of life and how it's woven together. And that's each and every one of you, each and every one of us, and even this morning, how we all come together today to share our words. And I just hope and pray for each one of you that you share your own truth with the government. They need to hear your truth. You may not all agree, and that's healthy. That's how we grow together, that's how we learn. On council, there's 7 council members. And my first year of council, I was the only female. So you can really feel sorry for me. Took a lot of patience for me to work with my male counterparts, but we did it and we worked together. And now there's 3 females and 4 males on the board. And it's always interesting in how we come together with different generations and male, female, the belief, our own traditions within our home, and how we work together. So it's an exciting time to learn and grow. Each one of you carries a beautiful spirit within you, and I just hope and pray that today you, as my mother would say, you put it on the table and you speak your own truth. And that's how we're going to move forward, with our own truth. Don't hold back. Someone may, even if you think someone thinks you're right or wrong, that doesn't matter. That's your truth. Be in your own element today. And so I'm grateful that these consultations are here, because it's important to listen to our people. And then you got to sort through all of it. And that's something that each and every day tribal leaders, our leaders of the country, and across the nation, across the world, that's what we have to do. Is we have to sort through all of the energy, all of the words to come up with the right decision. And so for me, I hope and pray that you continue that aloha spirit. We have some of our tribal members here who are of Tulalip and Hawaiian ancestry, so really honor those families here today because they bring us a lot of aloha. They bring their traditions from here, and they bring that love and that feeling of ohana, that feeling of love to us. And so they really add to the fabric and to our, not just only to our history, but who we are today. So today we're much a blended family, and so I'm very grateful for this day today and for each and every one of you. Again, it's I know these meetings can be intense. They can be people have different beliefs on where they stand, but I truly believe that if you just respect each other in that way and continue those traditional teachings that we have, that we'll find that common ground. And so that's my prayer for you today. That's the medicine that my grandmother taught me, is that love and that respect, and that we approach everything from the doorway in to the doorway out. We respect each other in that way. So again, much love to each and every one of you on your travels and on your day today. Tulalip tribes, we'd like to come visit you, and I think leadership needs to start. So if you hold a consultation there, I'd like a personal invite. But anyways, just once again, much love and welcome, and we hope you enjoy your stay here and visit us anytime. We're great to see you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So, good morning, everybody. We'd like to thank the Tulalip tribe for hosting this morning's session. It's a very special place. I came in yesterday, and it's just amazing. It's a beautiful area, and it's my first time here, so thank you, Tulalip tribes. So, I wanted to start out by giving everybody an introduction of the federal team here. Since this is a federal consultation, I want you guys to know who the federal officials are here. So, I introduced myself. My name is Derek. I'm a counselor to Assistant Secretary Washburn, and I'll let Jennifer introduce.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Romero. I'm a senior advisor to Secretary Jewell at the Department of the Interior.
And I know out front, if you guys signed in, you met the wonderful Annette Romero. She's in our Department of Regulatory Affairs. And we have Craig Dorsett around here as well, too. Craig Dorsett's in the Office of Policy, Management, and Budget. So those are the federal folks here this morning. I know we have a tribal leader here from Tulalip. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Thank you. Thanks again for the Tulalips and your beautiful place and allowing people to come here and visit. My name is Bill Sterroot. I'm the chairman of the Puyallup Indian Tribe. We're out down there by Tacoma, Washington. I have some Hawaiian friends, and I was just over in Hawaii like last week visiting some of my Hawaiian friends. And the concern that my Hawaiian friends had was that what are these hearings taking place? And why are the Indian tribes having comment into your internal, personal, tribal world? Well, I'm here to say that we do not have a place in your internal tribal world, and that you have some very important questions that you have to ask. You have some important things you have to say. Indian tribes over here don't have any input into that process. I'm just saying that for the record. This is your world. This is your fight. This isn't the tribal over on the mainland's fight. We'll support what you come up with, guaranteed, but this is your fight. And I just want you people to hear that. And I want Interior to hear it as well. That this is your fight, this is your government, and this is your world. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So with that statement, I guess, so this is, I'm here on behalf of Indian Affairs, and we've been working as a federal team on this matter, and just a little bit of background behind why Indian Affairs is involved. And the short of it is when the concept of acknowledging the government-to-government relationship with the peoples was brought up, and then in Department of Interior, Indian Affairs is, we've been doing this since the 1930s. And so I kind of see our involvement in this matter as more like a technical assistance involvement. It's definitely not trying to swoop Native Hawaiians under the umbrella of Indian Affairs, but it's more, when we look at this issue, Indian Affairs has a long history with the Indian Organization Act, the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act, the Alaska amendments to the IRA, the federal acknowledgement process, all of those different types of ways that tribes come into being. We have reaffirmation processes that we go through for tribes that were administratively left off the acknowledgement list, and it's kind of a mistake by the Department of Interior. So we have a lot of analysis that we go through to acknowledge that government-to-government relationship. So I think when this initiative was set forth, I think the thought was that since Indian Affairs has dealt so much with acknowledging that government-to-government relationship, that we should be kind of at the table. And the consultations, I see them more as tribes being able to get their input as to what works from the processes that they've been through. We have a lot of tribes that have been acknowledged through the federal acknowledgement process. We have several that have been acknowledged through reaffirmation. A lot of tribes are IRA tribes. A lot of tribes in Alaska were organized under the Alaska amendments to the IRA. And so just their history of it, it's not, we're going through, right now, we're also doing a separate rulemaking process for the federal acknowledgement process. And in that rulemaking process, that's for continental United States folks that are petitioning for federal acknowledgement. And so if the thought was to swoop Native Hawaiians into Indian Affairs, then we would have probably lumped it within that federal acknowledgement process. But this is separate and distinct, and it's something that you hear today. It's not the federal acknowledgement process. It's not the reorganization process. But when you look at those two processes, they might have components of there that might assist in any type of potential framework that we might be looking at in the future that addresses Native Hawaiians. So with that, I wanted to turn it over to Jennifer to give a little bit of background. And, we had initially framed this presentation for tribal leaders in case, there's a historical, information that needed to be told to tribal leaders for them to understand why we're here today and why we're talking about federal acknowledgement, possibly for Native Hawaiian community. And so that's why you see brief discussion in Native Hawaiian history. So I'll turn it over to Jennifer. I think she's going to kind of abbreviate that portion of the presentation, but Jennifer.
Thanks, Derek. Good morning again to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And on behalf of the Department of Interior and Secretary Jewell, we welcome you. And thanks again for taking time out of your schedules to come and listen. Before I begin the overview of the advance notice of proposed rulemaking, let me give just a little bit of a brief background on Native Hawaiian affairs. Native Hawaiians, like Native Americans and Alaska Natives on the mainland, are distinct, indigenous, Native people who lived and exercised sovereignty over their lands centuries before European contact and the formation of a federal government. Native Hawaiians continue to maintain their national identity as a distinct people with a unique language, history, culture, and ancestral land base. Yet despite these attributes, they're the only indigenous people of the United States that do not currently have a government-to-government relationship with the federal government. So no federal recognition, no federal regulations currently exist for recognizing a Native Hawaiian government. So with that, let me tell you what I'm here to do today. I will be giving you an understanding of how the advance notice of proposed rulemaking, and I'll abbreviate that by saying the ANPRM, how the ANPRM was developed and why. I'll also briefly go over the 5 questions that we've asked the Native Hawaiian community and other stakeholders in the ANPRM. So let me begin with a little bit of background on the development of the ANPRM. When was this document released? And I believe you have in your materials the 5 questions as well as some more information on the proposed rulemaking. But on July 18th, Secretary Jewell announced a first step to consider reestablishing a government-to-government relationship with the Native Hawaiian community and the United States. The ANPRM was posted in the Federal Register shortly thereafter. And after the publication, a federal team of Interior and Justice officials, including myself, embarked on a nearly 3-week journey to the Hawaiian Islands. We conducted 15 meetings on all the major islands in Hawaii. We collected over 45 hours of oral testimony, during these community meetings. But in addition to those meetings, we also had smaller community meetings, smaller stakeholder meetings in between the larger ones. We collected written submission testimony based on the AMPRM and also heard directly from those small community organizations. Those organizations, and we did meet informally, these were not on the record. This is strictly a talk story with these small organizations, which included the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, Homestead Community, the Rural Societies, the Li'i Trust, in settings really just like this one. It was an open forum. And we at the Department of the Interior felt that it was critically important that we hear directly from the community and we have a robust dialogue with the Native Hawaiian community and that we really heard from the people directly. So that was our goal. We set out to have these public meetings, 15 of them throughout the islands, but we also wanted to meet directly in the community to talk story and to really understand people's feelings about the AMPRM. So that's the timing of the AMPRM, and let me talk about why we undertook this process. So a lot of the questions that we got and the feedback we got in these smaller community meetings had to do with why are we here? Who asked us to undertake this process? So let me flesh that out a little bit. The AMPRM responds to requests from both the Hawaiian congressional community, and the Native Hawaiian community rather, and the Hawaiian congressional delegation. The Native Hawaiians elected political leaders, and then the local and at the national level. For the Department of Interior to consider developing an administrative process to create an option for the Native Hawaiian community to reestablish a government-to-government relationship with the United States. The process really builds on the 1993 Apology Resolution. In case you're unfamiliar with that, in 1993, the United States Congress formally apologized for its role in the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom and acknowledged that that overthrow was illegal. In 1993, once that resolution was passed, it kicked off a reconciliation process. And in the year 2000, or rather in 1999, another federal team of Interior and Justice officials set out went to Hawaii on a much smaller scale and had meetings with the Native Hawaiian community. And those meetings really centered on issues close to the Native Hawaiian community, education, employment, healthcare, these types of issues that the Native Hawaiian community really felt was important to self-determination and self-governance of their community. And as a result of those meetings that happened in 1999, a year later, a report came out. It's called the Reconciliation Report. And that report gave it as its top recommendation, its highest priority. Its recommendation to the United States was that the Native Hawaiian community be given the opportunity to reestablish and reorganize and petition the United States for federal recognition. So based on those two critical moments in time, we at the Department of Interior, hearing from local and national leaders over the past 2 decades, decided to lay the groundwork for the AMPRM in this important undertaking. So that's sort of the who behind the AMPRM and why we were asked to undertake this process. So let me then now address the why. Why is the AMPRM proposed? The United States, the United States has a special and political relationship with the Native Hawaiian community based on over 150 statutes conferring benefits on the Native Hawaiian community. Specifically, Congress has established special Native Hawaiian programs in the area of healthcare, education, loans, and employment. And 2 very prominent examples of these benefits codified in statute is the Native Hawaiian Healthcare Improvement Act and the Native Hawaiian Education Act. The United States has also enacted statutes to preserve Native Hawaiian culture, Native Hawaiian language and historical sites. So, as I said before, the ANPRM was really proposed to give Native Hawaiians the option of strengthening their self-determination and their self-governance by reestablishing government-to-government relationship. But really, another key reason is to better implement these federal benefits that the Native Hawaiian community already has. So, as I said before, Native Hawaiians are the only indigenous population in the United States and the largest one that does not have a government-to-government relationship with the United States, but it does have a special and political relationship already with the United States. So with that, let me talk about the ANPRM and what does it do. The ANPRM asks 5 threshold questions. The first question is the big one. Should the Secretary propose an administrative rule to reestablish a government-to-government relationship with the Native Hawaiian community? If the answer is no, then there's really no need to consider any of the other questions. But that is really the big question here. Does the Native Hawaiian community, would they like to re-engage? Would they like to reestablish and reorganize as a formal government and petition the United States for acknowledgement? If, again, as I said, if the Native Hawaiian community prefers the status quo, then the Department of Interior will take no actions. But if the answer is yes, then the next 2 questions concern facilitation of a reorganized government. The second question asks, really, should the United States facilitate? Should it have a role in assisting the Native Hawaiian community in reestablishing the government? If the answer is yes, then what process should the United States use in facilitating the reestablishment of this government? We're asking your opinion. We're asking for your expertise and your thoughts on the process. Those are the second and third questions. The final 2 questions consider federal recognition. The question number 4 is, should the Secretary wait for the community with the assistance of the state of Hawaii to complete its nation building that's already underway and rely on that reorganization process? So if the answer is yes to number 4, then the final question is, how should the Secretary acknowledge this new government once formed and go on to establish a government-to-government relationship with the Native Hawaiian community? So those are the 5 questions. There are other questions in the ANPRM that are causing a bit of confusion. Some people say, well, you know, these are 5 threshold questions, but there's actually 19. Well, yeah, it is confusing. There are 19 questions, but the 5 threshold questions are threshold questions. The remaining 19 questions are really there to assist commenters on thinking through these questions and maybe coming up with ideas on how to address the 5 questions. So you'll see later on in the ANPRM toward the end, these other questions that really are meant to flesh out and assist, and they're not additional questions. So just wanted to make that clear that they're just the 5 questions that we're asking. So let me conclude by talking a little bit about what the ANPRM does concern and what it does not concern. And I think this is really important for the community to understand. The ANPRM does not concern 4 things. Number 1, it does not concern international law. Nothing in the ANPRM would alter the fundamental political and trust relationship between the Native Hawaiian community and the United States that's been established by Congress and codified through those 150 statutes that I mentioned earlier. So it does not concern international law. The second thing it does not concern is membership. Presumably a Native Hawaiian government, once formed, would exercise its sovereign prerogative and, operating under a constitution or other governing document, could define its membership criteria. There is a seminal case on this matter with respect to Indian tribal membership, and it's called Santa Clara v. Martinez. And that, in that decision, the United States Supreme Court determined that membership in a tribe is an internal matter. So the United States does not have a role in defining membership. So the ANPRM has nothing to do with membership. The third thing the ANPRM does not concern is land. The ANPRM does not address land whatsoever. Any federal rule that results would not have any direct impact on the status of Hawaiian homelands. There is a separate statute that concerns Hawaiian homelands, and we are not, the ANPR process does not concern that particular issue. The last thing that the ANPRM does not concern is reparations and compensation for past wrongs. The 1993 apology resolution preserved these claims, but the ANPRM does not address them. So let me end my presentation by emphasizing that there's been a lot of hard work that's come, that really, the Native Hawaiian community, the Native Hawaiian the Hawaiian congressional delegation, the local leaders, the state legislatures, it's been a lot of hard work in getting to this point. It's only been 21 years since the Native Hawaiian community has had a voice in steering a path towards self-determination. And the 21-year mark is really a nod to the 1993 Apology Act. That's really when we feel that the reconciliation process between the United States and the Native Hawaiian community was kicked off. And there's been so many things that have happened during those little over 2 decades. But so far, these important building blocks, the apology resolution, the reconciliation report, and the federal recognition legislation that was proposed by former Senator Akaka, these efforts were important, but ultimately the legislative effort for federal recognition for Native Hawaiian community failed. When Senator Akaka retired, no other Hawaiian congressional leader has taken up the mantle and introduced similar federal recognition legislation. And there's a host of reasons why legislation on that particular path is something that may not be prudent at this time because of the frankly toxic political environment that we're in right now. But we feel that it was important, and I know that the Obama administration feels strongly in its commitment to attempt to carry forward to fruition the goals that were set in motion by Senator Akaka and the other Hawaiian congressional delegation and their leaders to work towards giving the Hawaiian community an option to pursue self-determination and self-governance in their lifetimes. But let me just underscore that this effort is ultimately the community's decision. It's this decision on how and whether to move forward towards self-determination and self-governance. The United States is simply here to facilitate and support that choice. So the comment deadline on the ANPRM is August 19th. We encourage you to submit written comments at regulations.gov, and the information is up on the screen here. You can also mail your comments in directly to the Office of the Secretary by United States mail, or if you have your comments here with you today, I'm happy to take them back to DC with me. I think that's all I have. Shall we open it up?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. So just real quick before we open it up to comments and statements, I just want to remind everybody we have a court reporter here. So before you make your statement or ask your question, please state your name clearly for the record so we can have an accurate record of the discussion that went on this morning. So we have a lot of people here, which is great. We have a lot of comments this morning, and we're going to work through a lot of items that we just discussed here. Before we start, I just want to say, if everybody could be respectful, that we have a lot of people in the room who want to get through, make sure everybody has a chance to comment first before we go to second comments by individuals. And so please try to limit your comments between 3 and 5 minutes, I guess. So I guess at this point we'll open it up, and we really want to hear from you guys. So is there anybody in the room that would like to make a first statement?
Thank you. My name is Daniel Compuiki III. No, not from the Pacific Northwest, it's Uncle Danny. I am ethnic Hawaiian, born and raised on the island of Lanai. To your response to your question one, should the Secretary of DOI write an administrative rule? I'd say yes, definitely yes. I appreciate the fact that for the years that we have been trying to gain recognition that with the Hawaii Legislature's Act 195 and now with you and what you're offering, that the door for me is open. And the thing I want to make sure is that we don't close it on ourselves. Question two was, what role should DOI play in this? And my thing to you is that advise, assist, make recommendations. We may not be Native American, but you have gone through the process of helping Native Americans create a self-government. And I think it's time that we kind of said, hey, let's learn from the mistakes, take advantage of the things that work. And this is, to me, again, where DOI needs to step into that. For me, though, the most critical thing I think I ask of DOI is that we have a notorious reputation among Hawaiians to be kind of not timely. And my thing would be, I would say to DOI, for me, the most critical thing you can do is to create a realistic date time frame where things can be done. Otherwise, we're going to be meeting again 5 years from now. So my thing again, that would be, again, I think, the one function I especially, and for the Hawaiian community, I think the critical thing right now is creating a role, identifying those of us who are qualified to be in the process of creating this self-government. As to eligibility, I've heard pros and cons going to HH, the Hawaiian Homes Act of 1927, which creates some criterion for who are Native Hawaiians. Act 195 by the state of Hawaii creates more criterion about who Hawaiians are. Again, I think the criterion is there, and I think, but you know, for all the advice and recommendation that DOI makes, I think the ultimate thing is that eventually the decision has to be ours. What process we use to create this government, what process we use to identify qualified Hawaiians should be ours, not Fred's. Question 17, and I think kind of asked about your role and the working together to create the Constitution, the government. And I think the question kind of boiled down to, should it be with Hawaiian community, state of Hawaii, and working through DOI. My thing is, the one thing I really would like to make sure we don't do is we don't get caught up in the federal process. We have such a divisive Congress that we will never get any place. So my recommendation would be certainly that DOI be involved in that process. I think question 18 was whether you should have approval, disapproval authority, and I think you should. If you're going to be responsible for setting up the process, I think eventually you should have the authority to approve, disapprove actions, recommendations that are made. Ultimately, though, there should be a caveat that the decision-making is not yours, but ours. I think in conclusion, again, I appreciate everybody coming here, and I know that it's a complex and complicated process, and it's not going to be done tomorrow. And there are a lot of pros, a lot of cons. I understand that some of your reactions back in Hawaii were not the most positive. But I think, again, most of us really are looking forward to a self-governance system. And I appreciate, again, the fact that you're opening this up to all of us and to the Hawaiian community. But again, eventually I say to DOI, go ahead and make recommendations. You've done this, you've seen how it works, how it doesn't work with the Native American things. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. to make recommendations on how you think it could work for us. But again, eventually, let us make that decision. Again, my name is Daniel Copley III. I live here in Seattle. Being away from Hawaii for 40 years, I have a kind of a different perception of... I am concerned mostly about our people, especially the elders. I want to make sure again that we are given every possible benefit that others enjoy. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ova o ululani wāwens he Hawaii au no ka moku o ke awe a me moku o Maui wau o ia ho'i o Oahu mahalo e Pauahi a me ku'u kupuna e a ko oi lina mai ku'u kupuna. And I'm pretty sure that the Department of Interior representative it does not have a certified interpreter to interpret what I just said. But we do not answer to the Department of Interior or the Department of Justice. You really have no jurisdiction over us, the Hawaiian nationals, nor the Hawaiian Kingdom. We only answer to Queen Lili'uokalani and our kupuna. If you are genuinely interested in a nation-to-nation relationship, Secretary of State John Kerry would be the sole person to represent the United States. Do not insult Native intelligence using the same talking points used to enslave our black cousins as well as our indigenous cousins. My concern is that the elders and the mo'opuna, which is the grandchildren, will be enslaved from birth until they're elders. I am in real estate and I work with real estate with tribal members as well. Their lands are held in trust. They are not private property, and that's not what I want for Hawaiians, nor especially for Hawaiian children. That's a lifetime of slavery. The Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, they do not speak for us, we speak for ourselves and for our kupuna. Nor do they have jurisdiction over us. The United States has no say in what happens with the Hawaiian Kingdom and their Hawaiian nationals. This includes the mo'opuna. That's my number one concern, is the mo'opuna. Once they're enslaved, like our indigenous cousins, there's no turning back. And most of the Hawaiians that I know do not have enough money for legal representation nor to retain an attorney. And I know Derek's here and he graduated from UH Law School, but most Hawaiians I know are unable to afford an attorney, to retain an attorney to fight this. So I strongly urge other people here to reconsider, because once the mo'opuna are on this path, they will not be able to break free. Look at our indigenous cousins. Tulalip, the children, that's not what I want. So we do not answer to the Department of Interior, but for me personally, no to FedRec. That's what it is. It'll wreck our mo'opuna, and as Uncle Danny had said, that he's concerned with the kupuna. Well, what about the kupuna and the mo'opuna? The mo'opuna are the youth, the young kids, are our future. I do not want them to be enslaved. And I think you had made a comment that it's not about the land. It is everything to do about the land. I'm a land expert. What the Akaka bill tried to do, the Democrats actually wanted it to pass through. Fortunately, this time, the Republicans were right. They have shut it down repeatedly, and I hope they continue to do that. Because once you lose your land, we will lose our roots. So I'm glad for that, occurrence between the Democrats and Republicans. And another point that you had mentioned is about it's not going to it has nothing to do with reparations. We don't want reparations. We want to be left alone. That's the point. We clearly, at the first meeting on June 23rd, and I don't think you were in attendance there because I don't recall you. Yeah, on June 23rd, at the Department of Justice and Department of Interior Bread and Circuses, nearly 95% to 97% of those 143 people who testified told the panel no. They have repeatedly said no. The people of Hilo, overwhelmingly majority, 95% plus, said no. In Maui as well as Molokai, because some people were fortunately videotaping as evidence that the majority have said no. And I hope you respect that and be mindful of Hawaiians. Just leave us alone and we can resolve our own problems. We're very, very capable of resolving our own problems. Mahalo.
Hello, Kako. Good morning, everyone. My name is Samuel Dwyer Pokala Long. The Hawaiian spelling is P-O-K-A-L-A. I'm here today. First of all, I wanted to thank the Tulalip Nation for hosting this important event. It's very appreciated of them having this time to speak. And also welcome the DOI here to Washington State. I'm here today to speak in opposition of federal recognition. And the answer to the first question is no, so therefore I'm not going to go with the other questions. All right, and also I'm here to represent the Movement for Aloha no Ka'aina organization. Director is Dr. Jonathan Osorio. To start out my prepared statement, we're the U.S. today, under its own domestic laws, rather through international law, government-to-government relationship with Kanaka Maoli Native Hawaiians. It would be violating, once again, the sovereignty of the Hawaiian Kingdom, which has never been legally obliterated insomuch as the U.S. has never conquered us. The kingdom resisted takeover using diplomatic, not military means, nor executed a valid treaty of cession annexation with us, either one of which was required in 1898 for an annexation to be valid under international law. The U.S. has no legal authority over our nation and no right to incorporate us as its native people. Since 1893, the U.S. has perpetuated numerous crimes against our people, including a determinative role in the overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani's lawful constitutional government, the rapid appropriation of lands, waters, and other resources, the attempted erasure of our history, language, and our culture, the strengthening of our diplomatic relationship with the other nations of the world. These actions violated our right existence under international law in the 1890s and now violate our collective right of self-determination and individual human rights. Setting up rules for a federal relationship with a native government entity would be the latest item in a long list of violations and demonstrate the U.S. government's utter unwillingness to take responsibility for the crimes against our nation. What the U.S. government ought to do between now and the restoration of our full independence is to officially recognize an interim trust relationship with the Kanaka Maoli, insomuch as it holds our land and resources, depriving us of their benefits. Indeed, the United Nations imposes this international trust relationship on countries like the U.S. that hold territories which are denied self-right to determination or prevent from governing themselves. As we are not at this moment able to exercise our sovereignty in our own country, the U.S. must ensure that the Hawaiian people do not lose the rights and prerogatives, however inadequate, that have been garnered by Hawaiians since the American takeover. In other words, the U.S. should inflict no more harm as the Hawaiian nation continues to unify and strengthen itself. The U.S. may also be bound by its own domestic laws, specifically the 1993 Apology Resolution, in which the U.S. recognized its complicity in the loss of our government while committing itself to an unspecified process of reconciliation. The imposition of the status of a client state on the Kanaka Maoli is another aggression and not reconciliation. Consequently, no federal agent should cooperate with state initiatives like Act 195 roll call. That would limit the Hawaiian nation's effort to restore its government. Finally, the U.S. needs to understand that an increasing number of people believe that restoration of our independent government is not only viable and reasonable, but inevitable. This makes the political climate, the future of Hawaii, very different and somewhat more precarious than in 1959 when Congress declared Hawaii a state, or even in 1993 when tens of thousands of Hawaiians were seeking limited self-government. The Department of Interior and the state of Hawaii should not attempt to influence or interfere with the nation building that has been ongoing among Kanakas for the past 30 years. The goodwill and aloha shown by Hawaiian activists will quickly sour if either the U.S. or the state of Hawaii uses tactics to divide and alienate our people from one another. We believe the Hawaiian sovereignty movement can and will produce a peaceful and just resolution of political and legal problems created by the U.S. if it is not prevented from growing at its own pace and according to its own ideals. We do not want just any government body. We want the restoration of our independent government, and we deserve nothing less than that. Through our patience and our nonviolent persistence, we have earned the faith of those who inhabit these islands alongside us, and we will not disenfranchise others nor deprive them of their rights. We do insist, however, on claiming our rights as a sovereign people and on the U.S. and state policy makers keeping their hands off of our efforts. This does not mean that the U.S. does not owe reparations to the Hawaiian nation for its use of our national lands, waters, for its own benefit and security. Between June 23rd and July 8th, the U.S. Department of Interior held 15 hearings in Hawaii seeking input from Kanaka Maoli on a possible rule change in federal law that would allow for a government-to-government relationship with Native Hawaiians. Throughout these packed hearings, you witnessed an outpouring of love and patriotism as testimony after testimony rejected the proposed rule change, rejecting federal recognition and reaffirming over and over that the Kingdom of Hawaii still exists as a subject of international law. And it is through international law that we expect to move forward to restore justice to our people, lands, and government. The passion, love, and acknowledgement expressed at these hearings was awe-inspiring and had touched a new era of unified dedication to justice amongst our people. We call on the Department of Interior and the Obama administration to move forward under the proposed principles of democracy, heed the voice of the people of Hawaii, and cease any further support for U.S. federal recognition of Native Hawaiians, despite what efforts particular individuals who claim to represent our people may say or pushing on the contrary. After weeks of oral and written testimony and nearly unanimous opposition to federal recognition, the only moral action for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to take is to abandon Act 195. But we learned that OHA is indeed proceeding with the status quo, providing that they do not represent the concern and hopes of the Hawaiian community. The Department of Interior should not assist the Native Hawaiian community in reorganizing our government or facilitate their establishment of a government-to-government relationship. The Department of Interior also should not be involved itself in support with current state of Hawaii-driven efforts to establish a government entity. We base our position upon the following principles. 1, we believe the nation building cannot be initiated, controlled, or monitored by the occupying state or state representative of a nation or local level. 2, we believe that any nation building effort must start with us, the Lahui Kanaka, larger Hawaiian community, from the bottom up, not top down. 3, we believe the terms of reconciliation must be set by those who have been injured, not by the offending party. 4, we believe the clauses and conditions granting the United States sovereign immunity and indemnification upholds ultimate power with the U.S. and prohibits true reconciliation. We reject and condemn any offers or models that do not uphold these principles and the legal problems created by the U.S. if we are not prevented from growing on our own pace and according to our own ideals. In closing, I just want to acknowledge and thank everyone for being here today. The Department of Interior hearings, these hearings, no matter what side of the issue you took, under international law today, stand here as the movement for Aloha no Ka'aina. Our message to the Lahui is to remain steadfast, heed the call of the Queen and Onipa. We call on the Lahui to organize your families, your neighborhoods, and your mokus, to hold your own public dialogues and educational forums. Continue to have full faith in yourselves and in your communities and in your Lahui. We will continue to speak for ourselves in a clear, educated, and unified voice. We know who we are. We are Kanaka Maoli. We are Hawaiian nationals. We are not Americans. The U.S. has no legal authority over our nation, and we will continue to challenge them to prove otherwise. Again, thanks for the Tulalip Nation for having this meeting and on native lands. Aloha.
Thank you. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. The comment was made earlier about land being taken into trust, and I wanted to reiterate what Jennifer said is this process that we're asking questions about would down the road conceivably create a government-to-government relationship with Native Hawaiians. That doesn't necessarily mean the Native Hawaiians will be lumped in like American Indians. So the regulations that allow the Secretary to take land into trust for Indian tribes, that's not, we don't see that automatically applying to a government-to-government relationship. I know there's been some debate, about private property versus trust land property, and that's, even within the Indian community, there's back and forth between which process is preferred. But I just wanted to clarify that any type of rule that we're considering or that we would consider would not automatically incorporate everything that Indian tribes have.
We don't want to go down that path. That's why we're adamantly saying no. It is all about the land. The same talking points used to enslave our black cousins or Moroccan, which is like that, okay? And our indigenous cousins, it's the same talking points that I'm hearing from the Department of Interior. We're shutting it down, and we're saying no.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify that. I just wanted to clarify that one doesn't equal the other. And then
Of course
also,
not, but it's always when everything American government touches, they destroy. And it's always about the I have been in real estate for 10 years, real estate and real estate law. It's always about the land. You displace the native people, you displace their keiki. And we're not going to stand for that. With all due respect to the tribes, Tulalip as well as Tulalip, we don't want that. We have evolved to relearn from our indigenous cousins. We've learned a lot. I have friends who are members of this tribe as well as Tulalip. And I've learned a lot from what they say. It's about the land. We're not willing to lose our roots. That's why we're saying no. Absolutely not.
okay, thank you. And I also wanted to state that we're the Department of Interior, so the questions that we ask are only within the scope of the Department of Interior. We understand it's an emotional issue, and there are a lot of different perspectives. Some that incorporate international law. To the degree that you can, please try to, state your comments within the framework of the Department of Interior's jurisdiction, because we have no say what Secretary of State or what the State Department would do in this instance. And so when we hear those comments, it's not within the scope of the Department of Interior. So I just want to clarify that. And also, I want to clarify that if you have long written statements, please submit them to the regulations.gov. But just today, for the purposes of the discussion, please try to summarize your written statements. If you have them, get your top points and summarize them so that we can make sure that everybody has a chance to comment. So right now in the queue, we have right up here and then right here. Sound good?
How do you establish the queue?
They raise their hands.
It's on the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pardon me. That's what I thought the list was for. That's the queue.
Oh no, I was just asking if anybody wanted to make a statement.
Establish it. Use the...
Okay, I will establish it right now. So if you raise your hand and you haven't made a comment, then I'll answer, I'll try to get you the mic in the order the hands are raised. And then once everybody's had an initial comment, then we'll go to second commenters. Okay? So right now we have, okay, so we'll go here, and then here, and then here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Aloha kakayaka. Good morning. Mahalo for coming together, creating a forum to bring people together. My name is Kalani Opua, and I'm Kanaka Maoli. I'm a native Hawaiian. and not by that legal definition, but under the definition of the Kingdom of Hawaii, which continues to exist. It is currently occupied by the United States, which is illegal under international law, under U.S. law, and under Hawaiian Kingdom law. I am here because as a Kanaka Maoli, it is my kuleana, it is my responsibility to speak out against this forum. This is not the appropriate forum. The appropriate forum would be under the Department of State and would be between a nation and another nation, which is the Kingdom of Hawaii. So this is an improper forum. So I do not agree to make any comments on the questions because I don't want to be interpolated into this framework, which is corrupt and immoral just on the foundation of it. And we have to ask the question, why are we being called to provide commentary with the Department of the Interior and not the Department of State? That presumes that the burden should be on us as Kanaka Maoli, but the burden actually should be on the United States. Can the United States prove that the kingdom does not exist? And if you cannot, then why are we even here? Why are we wasting US tax dollars to provide this kind of forum when it's improper? And also, I think it's important for Kanaka Maoli living on Turtle Island or the continental US to speak out not only against the US occupation in Hawaii, but militarism in general across the globe and how it's being used to dispossess Native people in other parts of the world. And so I'm here to speak out, speak in opposition to continuing militarism and continuing military buildup. And I also want to acknowledge my elders, Uncle Danny in the front, Uncle Stan, and I see a lot of my elders. My dad served in the US military for many years, so that's the reason why I ended up here. He didn't have employment opportunities back home, so he joined the military. Next thing you know, I end up here in Washington State, but I grew up in Waianae, Oahu, which is known for being a very impoverished area in Hawaii. And I watched my grandma and I watched my aunties and my uncles work so hard to put food on the table, okay, and struggle to make rent or pay the mortgage and to pay for all the food to feed the ohana, to feed the family. And they had very limited resources. Their land had been taken away from them. And they inherited that legacy. They inherited that real politic. There's a real politic here. There are real pressing issues. It's not just an ethical concern, but there are real everyday issues that Kanaka Maoli are having to endure, or not, as the case may be. I'm here to speak out against the continuing US occupation of Hawaii. I'm also here to speak in support of my elders who didn't have the opportunity to question the illegal occupation of the US, who were brainwashed in many ways to join US empire building projects across the world. And I'm here to give voice to that as a mo'opuna and as a kumu myself. And I want to teach my students at the University of Washington about the real history and what it means to be a real American patriot would mean that they would support the de-occupation of Hawaii. And so mahalo.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Alice Kai'u Lunning Milham. I am Kanaka Maoli and a resident of Portland, Oregon, a board member of Keikukui Foundation, and a member of Kalei Maile Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu. I want to thank the Tulalip for hosting this meeting and for their great generosity to the Hawaiian people of the Pacific Northwest. Especially our foundation has been blessed with support from the Tulalip. That's been very welcomed. Hawaiians living on the continent have historically not been eligible for benefits that come from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Many of the programs, grants from elite trusts are not available to our Hawaiians here. So we really appreciate the support of the Native Americans of this area. And I think that's probably the case throughout the continent, is that we've had, as Hawaiians, we've had great support from Native American people. And I want to thank you folks also for having this meeting. And just the opportunity for us to share our thoughts about the future of our people and our lands. But my response to the questions is no. Others have already talked about the historical reasons why the sovereignty of our nation that endures. But the reason I want to share is that it would simply be unsustainable for the process of federal recognition and the proposed government-to-government relationship for our people and our lands and our waters. Clearly, we Hawaiians are not Native Americans. America's 2,500 or so miles away from our islands. But we are very much like Native Americans. Our connections with our lands is profound. Chief Seattle was one of the Native people that really spoke eloquently about that, the interconnectedness of all things, and understood, and the Native American people understand these things very, very well. And then we're also very different from Native Americans for the fact that we're island people, and our island dwelling makes it especially unsustainable for us to continue the current relationship with the United States of America. Because that relationship, the existing relationship, has caused great devastation to our home. Some of you probably have heard that Hawaii is the extinction capital of the world. The only lands that the federal government has agreed to turn over to our people is the island Kaho'olawe, which was used since the Second World War for bombing practice. And it's been a little over 10 years of cleanup effort there and $400 million, and it's just 10% cleaned up now. Other examples, Makua Valley, a place where there are 40 endangered species, has been subjected to live fire training, and people who live there were evicted. They even put a target on a church and blew it up. And there have been as a result of the training going on there, there have been 250 fires. There are other parts of our islands, also Pohakuloa, where depleted uranium, which is very questionable about the impacts, is used. There are ongoing disturbances. Because we are island people, our ancestors are buried all throughout the islands, and there are ongoing disturbances of our ancestors' graves under the current relationship. I don't know of anywhere else in the United States where it's okay to go and dig up people's ancestors all the time. RIMPAC, biennial, I think it is, every couple of years, the United States hosts military exercises off our waters, invites all these other countries to come and do their war games, sinking ships, torpedoes, the whole, you can imagine what's involved there. So, and you can imagine the impact to our marine life, our fisheries. I saw a photo the other day of a whole bunch of dead fish washed up on a beach in Hawaii during the RIMPAC exercises, which are concluding today. I think they had, this time, 22 nations, 55 vessels, 200 aircraft, and 25,000 personnel practicing war in our waters. Under the current relationship with the United States, Hawaii is considered ground zero for GMO test fields. So our once productive islands that fed over 1 million people by themselves, and now has to import 90% or more of their food. And if there was an interruption in our food supplies due to a natural disaster or war or something, we would be out of food in 3 days. And now our agricultural lands are used for GMO experimental field tests. And that involves, because we have such a wonderful year-round growing season and isolation and everything else, they've chosen the Hawaiian Islands to be the world center. All the biotech companies are there, and when they grow GMO crops, they dump tons and tons of pesticides, restricted use pesticides included, that have been found to cause birth defects of children, where they're spraying these pesticides right next to schools. That's so horrendous to know that permanent damage is going to be done to our lands, our waters. Everything that comes down in those pesticides goes into our land, goes into our waters, and affects everything. The Jones Act, under our relationship with the United States of America, we're subjected to the Jones Act in Hawaii, which means that everything that's imported from, I believe it's Asia, but it might be other parts of the world, but instead of coming directly to Hawaii, it has to go to the west coast of America and then back. So an added 5,000 miles is mandated by the United States government laws. And then the prices of what Hawaiians pay for things that are imported, like oil, just oil alone, they're paying $4,000 a year for that extra transportation. Every Hawaiian. And our sacred mountain, Mauna Kea, is completely overrun with observatories and telescopes, and there's plans for more telescopes, and it would be like someone, I guess, putting antennas or something all over Notre Dame or some other sacred place that the world recognizes, but not ours. Under the current system, it's not recognized as a sacred place, and that continues. And one final point, No, I'm not going to. So, I can't see that a federal recognition or a government-to-government relationship with the United States of America would be good for Hawaiians, because history has shown us that the United States of America is not taking care of our islands. We need to take care of our islands, and I think we island-dwelling people who evolved on these islands for thousands of years know best how to take care of islands. This is America is, sea to shining sea, right? They took the whole continent, essentially, North America. And that's the mentality. That was the mentality, and I think it kind of still is, that frontier mentality where there's always war. Well, there's not always war when you're an island people. And I don't think it's sustainable, and I'm very much opposed to anything but our total independence for Hawaiian people, and our lands and our future depends on it.
So just a quick point. I know you're next, and we have a couple other folks that will. Okay, so here, and then here in the back. And we'll do 3 at a time. But you bring up a good point about the state, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and the benefits not being available to folks that come in the U.S. And I just want to say that from my perspective, I'm a tribal person. I'm Navajo. I'm from the Navajo Nation, and I didn't always live on the reservation. I lived in Maryland when I was younger. I lived in Los Angeles when I was younger. But my tribal citizenship always went with me. Even right now, I can apply for absentee ballots to vote, get education assistance when I go to school. And so just, the framework for having a self-governing entity that has that government-to-government relationship almost broadens the scope of that. And I just want to make that point, is that right now the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is embedded within the state. It's a state entity. And so there's limitations on the types of benefits that they can provide to folks, on the mainland. So I just want to make that point about, the government-to-government relationship, and from my perspective. But, okay.
Aloha kako. My name is Miley Alicia Mokihana Lono Batura, and I come from the Lono Ohana. I see my auntie back there, and I see a lot of people I love and respect in this room. And also, I just want to say thank you to Department of Interior for hosting this, because I can't imagine this is easy to do. And I respect that, and I really want to I'll make it brief. I call it because I don't have no written speech or nothing, but I just wanted to be here to represent my ohana, who is actually divided on this completely. So we don't even agree, and that's just part of life, right? And so what we're going to have today, I'm sure, and through all these meetings, is people who don't agree, but this is an option. And I think it's imperfect maybe right now, but that's the whole point of collecting these comments. And so I just wanted to be a representative voice for that and say, our family, when we go back to Hana, because that's where we're from, they say, oh, are you going back to America? Have fun in America. And it's funny because, a lot of them believe that. It is very divided. I think the thing that we all agree on that is common ground, though, for our ohana is that we love our family and we love our culture. And we want what's best. So whatever that is, whatever shape that takes, whatever form it goes, just imua it. Imua it. I don't, any of this business about of being so divided that we cannot agree, it's, we have to get it all out there. And that's why I appreciate all the different points of views. And that's why I think that I'm supportive of recognition, because I think that we do need this for our keikis. I see my dad, 100% Hawaiian. You're right, it is extinction. These guys are going to be POW pretty soon. And then I have my daughter, and then they'll have kids, and then what for them? We got to think about all those points, very good points brought up today. But I support it, because I do think that it will move us forward. If we have input on it like we're doing today, I think we could make it right. And if we stand up and have a voice, we can make it right. I have full confidence in our people, full confidence in aloha. And it's brief, I just wanted to say that, but mahalo.
Thank you. And I just wanted to follow up on a point that she said is, us at Interior see this whole process as an option. You know, it's not, so the difference between a statute and a regulation is that a statute, you know, a lot of tribes get recognized through a statute. And that's Congress acting, saying this is an Indian tribe. And by statute, you know, Congress is acting to recognize that tribe. A regulation can sit on the books for years and not be used. You know, so what we're presenting is like an opportunity that when and if, you know, Native Hawaiians decide that they want to exercise this opportunity, they can do that. You know, but it's not forcing anything on Native Hawaiians. It's just there. It's like, it's been described in Hawaii as a door for the future. And as Jennifer said earlier, we have a small window in time right now where we have a president that's supportive. You know, this administration has been supportive of this initiative. And we don't know what the future is going to hold. We don't know who's going to be elected next, and we don't know if they're going to be supportive or if this is going to be a priority for them. And but whatever we can accomplish during this administration, if it's setting up an option or a door that never gets used, at least it's there. You know, and so that's kind of how we see it. The question was asked, you know, why are we here? Well, this is the Department of Interior acting. We're stepping forward and we're trying to act and ask questions about how the best way to move forward with this initiative is. If State Department steps forward and they act, that's a different situation, you know. But we're here, you know, representing Secretary Jewell for the Department of Interior, and these are just questions that we're asking. And also want to emphasize that there's nothing written at this point. The advance notice of proposed rulemaking is an optional front end part to the rulemaking process. So usually an agency will draft a rule and they'll put it out and they'll ask for comments on that rule. It'll be a draft rule. But we haven't even drafted a rule yet. So these are really just questions, or scoping questions. And I just wanted to reiterate that, and we'll go ahead and move down the line.
I got 2 minutes, so I'm going to read. Normally, among First Peoples, it's oratory. Yapahe. Funny thing is, I'm Hawaiian, but I went to school in Durango, Colorado, so I got to sleep, live in, rest in Hogan. Hogan. And you remind me so much of my brother back there, my Navajo brother. Whew. As a visitor, please pardon my tribal protocol omission. I'm not versed in your culture, so sorry if I make mistakes. Aloha, raise my hands. I raise my hands to all elders, brothers and sisters of First Peoples around the world, to the consolidated tribes of Tulalip. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to come into your land. To sit with you in Indian country, here in this fine house. If it's not in Hebo, in the museum, at least it's in this fine house that former resident Sam Askew is the manager. Catch the point? We're all of them. I raise my hands to the Canoe families of the past 21 years, and to Bella Bella 2014. Frank Brown started this 21 years ago. He is my mentor in justice, in Native justice. Those of you from the Pacific Northwest, you understand what Frank Brown went through when he went off in isolation. Kalakamo'ole, sovereignty. To my Suquamish friends, Suquamish. I live in Poulsbo, Washington. The Suquamish tribe is in 5 miles from where I live. They have been guiding me for 9 years in self-governance. I sat on the committee when they did the consultation, government to government with the military. Beyond that. Also, I raised my hand to the recorder because without her, we're going to have difficulty going forward. My brothers and sisters in Indian country, we are not here for your assets. We're here for our rights, land rights, native culture rights, indigenous people's rights, which America at first did not agree to back in, I forgot when. I'm 71, but I forgot when. But finally, we got approved. My brothers and sisters of First Nations, I appreciate your encouragement as we Hawaiians continue our journey on self-governance. I praise that you are examples to the world's indigenous peoples. You really are, because look, how many tribes are there in the Department of the Interior? Over 200. And each of you is an independent nation. I raise my hands to you. It is important, however, to let the Hawaiian community work this out. Our brother from Puyallup says, "We're leaving alone. It's your battle. Thank you." I am Herbert Kamukai Jr., born in Hilo. I'm 50% Hawaiian blood, 50% Chinese blood. I'm over the hill. I am an awardee of Hawaiian homes because I don't have ohana to pass it on, descendants. I don't have successorship. Good topic, think about it. And so I pass it off to my brother, 50%. So I think I speak with wisdom. Besides, my grandfather was the one who helped those in Kailua and Kona following the Kuleana Act write the deeds in Hawaiian and insert it subject to native rights. So, my brother from Kona, he understands what we're talking about. There was a time the Hawaiians couldn't, but irregardless. I'm a 61 Kamehameha Schools alumni, active member of Moka'aina, our Kinekona Hawaiian Civic Club, soon to be also member of Hilo. I advocate getting the Hawaiians per HHCA 1920 onto Hawaiian homes lands first and foremost. See where? To the Department of Interior, U.S. Federal Administrative Oversight of Native Hawaiians and 200 plus Native Americans, Native American tribes. I raise my hands that you are concerned and arrange this meeting in Indian country. This is right. DOI and DOJ the mediator, bringing us together under one roof, united but still separated. To Director Sally Jewell of Renton, Washington, one-time President and CEO of REI, one of the best companies in America, can get people work together. Anyway, to Director Sally Jewell of Renton, I thank you for the 5 threshold questions. June 2014, and then the follow-up 19, which came later. I know that President Obama, 2009, Executive Order 13175, directed DOI to promulgate rules. Rules for consultation, and DOI would like to get this job on the books before former Hawaii resident President Obama retires. I say DOI should channel energy and talent to the actions recommended in DOIG audit. You know, the book From Mauka to Makai. The other book, the Hawaiian Homes DOI report on the task force, I forgot, 1998. Before more federal and state regulation take our assets and our beneficiaries of Hawaiian Homes Act 1921, like me, go maki. I would prefer to explore and keep all options open. You know, like read John Osorio's Dismembering Lahui, Native Indigenous Rights by Melody Mackenzie. Who Owns the Crown Lands of Hawaii by John Van Dyke. Gavin Dawes, Shoal of Time. Ke'anu Sai, awaiting international court decisions. Mililani Trask, former OHA secretary. Your local Hawaiian Civic Club. Check your Hawaii tax maps. Bureau of Conveyances, land title transfers. Get smart. Hawaii. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Gabriel Makanoni Reyes Gomez. I am born and raised Maui Lahaina. Nice to meet you all. Aloha. Maui no koi, yeah? No, okay. Get serious over here. First I want to say mahalo to the Tulalip tribes and also the indigenous people of the continent here. This is your people's land. Thank you for welcoming us. Thank you too for taking down our words. For real, it's a hard job, yeah, when we all speak real kind of angry and any kind, but mahalo, yeah. So, a couple things I like to address, or want to address, I'm changing it out of proper English and Pidgin, because when you're around family, that's all. So, I guess first, I would like to address is this meeting here. Today, we came here to learn about this process and to discuss it, yet when you came in here, you presented the way we talk about this, the talking points, 5 talking questions, although there are 19. And although the other half of those 19 are supposed to help us influence our decisions and help us speak out about our feelings, influence those things, we didn't discuss any of those things. We didn't discuss any of those other 19 questions on there, a lot of which you told us not to talk about in the beginning. It talks about the Hawaiian role, it talks about Hawaiian lands, it talks about all those things, but we're not supposed to talk about that? I think it's hard to have faith in the DOI and the processes that are going on now if it's confusing, if the meetings that we come to are confusing. And while I don't agree with federal recognition, I do admire what is being done now here. And I do ask that if we're gonna have meetings like this, there's much more preparation to be had, because this is almost a slap in the face to our people. Not on behalf of you guys, by all means, thank you for being here. You know, thank you for being respectful and trying to speak up on your guys' behalf, because honestly, you've had a longer relationship with the United States than we have. And I've been blessed, the minimal time I've been up here, blessed to hear a lot of testimony from various nations all across, over 566 right now, federally recognized nations, yet somehow none of us really learn about them. Federal recognition is supposed to open up a door to what? Nothing. When are the people of this country, the branch, that is extended, Department of the Interior, when are you going to tell the rest of the country about those 566 federal recognized tribes? I'm 27. This is 2014. I don't know any of them. More and more I learn. And the more I come up here, the more I learn that your own citizens don't even know about them. And so that's why we're afraid, and that's why we respond variously. Some of us want federal recognition. Some of us don't want federal recognition. But it's confusing. And for us to have any kind of trust in you or any process like this, we need to be honest. Be honest. I know we have good intentions, but be honest. Obama administration, I can understand there's some people that really do want to help the Hawaiian people, but for real, he was born and raised in Hawaii. Doesn't speak up about it. 8th president to visit a tribe. How long this country exists already? I cannot take that serious. And for that, I say no. And because I say no, according to the way we set this up, that means the other questions somehow go out the window because we didn't prepare to come up with a plan. For if I say no to that, then I have to shut up. Or all of a sudden, my words don't mean anything because I didn't speak in the proper form that you would actually listen to us. And I understand you guys' job is hard because after this, you got to take plenty words what we said, pull it down to about a page or a couple pages, and then report that to your boss, yeah? So that's really all I have to say. Mahalo to everybody here. Hopefully we can continue through this, and if there's a second day, maybe we can address some of the questions and concerns that we had. But mahalo to you, and mahalo to everybody else.
I'd like to respond to the gentleman's comment. Thank you for that. The 19 questions, we understand this is a confusing process. The 19 questions are really there as guideposts. As you know, the Department of the Interior is the lead agency on Native American, Alaska Natives, and other indigenous communities in the United States. There are over 200 years of expertise at the agency. When we were devising the AMPRM, we merely were brainstorming about how can we assist the Native Hawaiian community and others who are interested in this process and get them thinking about how they can have a role and a leading role in developing their own government. So those are really just guidepost questions. And I understand your point is well taken, sir, about how I said that the MPRM isn't about some things, but those questions relate to precisely those things. It's really about nation building. And land, yes, it is important to nation building. But the AMPRM itself would not affect the status of Hawaiian homelands. So that's really my point there. And I'd also like to address the fact that of the Obama administration. President Obama is a son of Hawaii. It took so much hard work and determination for us to get here. But we wouldn't be here without his full support. He is the first president in our history to be the friendliest president towards indigenous rights and Native American and Alaska Native sovereignty principles in our nation's history. We have to start somewhere, and President Obama is doing that. I come from Santa Clara Pueblo. My nation is north of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we're a very, very small tribe. We've had a government-to-government relationship with the United States officially since 1934, and that's the date of the Indian Organization Act. My elders tell me that the process of reestablishing a government-to-government relationship or establishing one at that time was so fractious. People couldn't decide. Families were torn apart. We talk in a kiva, we talk in a small little house, and we hash things out. And it was very, very difficult for my elders to decide to enter into that, to take that step, to move forward in order to have a government-to-government relationship. And in a lot of ways, that's the reason why I'm here. That's the reason why my culture has been preserved and my language exists and my children will be able to participate in my traditions, is because my tribe has been able to exercise their sovereignty and have a seat at the table with the United States over negotiating with respect to the disposition of land and natural resources, the preservation of languages, using federal funds to get the job done, to preserve our culture and to make sure that my community stays intact for the next 7 generations and the next 7 generations and on and on. So I really thank you for your words, and I hear a lot of passion, and I respect that. And I think Derek and I both have a personal stake in listening to these stories that you have. So again, thank you.
My name is Gene Razor. I may look very howling, but I am Hawaiian. I'm 5 generations from MS schools. My ancestors were chiefs of Mokuokeawe, the Big Island, and Hana is part also of Mokuokeawe. Kaulaloa, family line, Hana. Okay, I never prepare because I let it come from my ancestors that day. Today I've heard you talking about Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea, most sacred mountain in the entire Pacific. And during the time of our ancient chiefs, above the 6,000 foot level, if you were not born from the right families and you crossed that line, you were killed. Each pu'u on the mountain had different classes of kahunas, and they would kill you. Okay. Enough for Mauna Kea, because the depleted uranium is right. I sat on the Mauna Kea advisory board for almost 7 years. And depending on who the base commander is, things change. Okay, you also mentioned the pesticides and all the chemicals they've dumped on us. And because of that, okay, yes, Agent Orange used the defoliant in Vietnam. 90% of it, Monsanto used on the island of Kauai. The rest of it was on the island of Oahu. And guess what? To this day, they have not disclosed every area that they used Agent Orange. So we've had kids playing in the Kuahivi, and they get sick, and nobody knows why. One of my really close friends from the Kamakaviviola family in Honoka'a, we stayed at the church over there, just on the Mauka side of the highway. He was a Vietnam vet. He died about 4 years ago from Agent Orange that he contracted fighting wars for this country. Okay, now, before I go far off the track, another part, Hawaiian homeland. Do you know when Prince Kuhio, even though he's a representative, technically he doesn't have a vote, but he made the initial offerings. Do you know what the original offering for Hawaiian homeland was, the quota? 1/32. But do you know why? It's because in the early 1500s, right off from the place where my mother and my aunts and my family were born in Napopo, a Spanish ship sank. It got caught in a Kona storm. Worst weather in the Pacific for the Hawaiian Islands. Hurricanes, that looks like somebody going compared to a Kona storm. They can last for months. And in that particular time, 3 Spanish ships got wrecked in the Kona storm. One of them, and probably 2, because it depends on the story about who told the story. They appeared 2 weeks later, after the storm had subsided, off Napopo. And the beach over there is called Kulo, because 2 descendants of the captain crawled ashore, a little boy and a little girl. And that's why in Kona, for the ones that know Mokuokeawe, people from South Kona, Makaimu, Ehu, hair, red hair and green eyes, because those ships belonged to Cortez, who was a Catalano, and they were redheads, not black hair. Okay, now, because of all these things, what happened to this 1/32 that Prince Kuhio wanted? No. The federal government, U.S. Congress, made it 50%. Immediately creating another separate class of Hawaiians. It doesn't matter. We are Hawaiians. Whether you have 1 drop or you're 100%, our na'au is Hawaiian. Our ancestors, as far back as they can go to Io, are Hawaiian. It will never change. Okay, now I wanted to address, and mahalo for having us here. Navajo. My first cousin spent 40 years, and she's still there as a medical, she married a Navajo, she went there to be a medical tech, and she stayed there, and she's still on the reservation to this day. I just saw her family reunion. Her husband died shortly after, but she's been there for over 40 years now, okay? And she loves it. Okay? My half-brothers, 5 half-brothers born on the Montana reservation for the Assiniboine. So another Native people's contact. My 2 oldest sons are descendants of the Trail of Tears Indians, the Cree and the Choctaw that walked 2,000 miles to Oklahoma, and most of them died. So yes, I feel for all of you because you're in the same predicament. But now the difference, and only because of what happened to what the United States did to us, they committed on the day that our queen was forced to leave the throne, when 120 or so Marines and Navy marched up with howitzers and field pieces and rifles in front of her palace to remove her from office. And in order to not break a law and create a reason for a war and a reason for them to physically take over, she acquiesced and said, I will wait for it to be settled by the United States government. Well, have they settled it yet? Ole. And this is why we're all here now. We're coming back to this same thing, and again, we're beating the same pahu. What is going on? We know who we are. We know what belongs to us. In 1959, my mom raised us that, and now the youth no vote, no grumble, but I grew up with no vote, no grumble. She said, you have to go and vote anytime that election is. If you don't vote, and she didn't use it, the no vote, no grumble, the latest, but that basically was it. 1959, the very morning, I got up in the morning and I went, Mom, how come you're not going down to vote? And you know what her answer was? Very simple. There's nothing on the ballot for me. They didn't offer us any choice then. But not even, because now the new generation, they don't even know what happened in 1959. So very simple things. And like I said, this is my know-how and my ancestors speaking. Nothing prepared. I just listened to notes and I knew what I had to say. In fact, when I came this morning, I wasn't even going to speak. I was just going to listen and then, kuka with whoever was here and let it go at that. But these were important and it had to be done. Okay, mahalo.
Hello, my name is George Kawanoi. I've been living in Washington State for, I guess, over 20-something years. But anyway, I would like to give my mahalo to the Tulalip tribe and thank you for hosting this gathering today. I would also thank DOI for what you're doing today, and I really appreciate it. I am Hawaiian, okay? Hanao Ka'aina, born on the island, raised on the island, and then I left over 40 years ago. I've never been back since, except just on small vacations, all right? One thing I recall after I graduated from high school, I went to work with my dad. He was a construction worker. And we were going home to Waimanalo one day, and my auntie was on the road holding a sign protesting the building of Nui Valley. And my dad said, look at Auntie. What the hell is she doing? She don't know what she's doing. Anyway, right? A couple days later, he told me, you know what, your auntie the only one backing us up. You know, and my dad never spoke too much. He was kind of quiet, but I always admired him. I only had one hero in my whole life. It was my dad. Anyway, on behalf of my father and my children, and for Hawaiian benefits, issues that we're losing, I say yes to federal recognition. Although I agree with sovereignty, as long as we keep fighting for sovereignty and we don't protect the rights we have remaining, we are going to lose it. We're going to lose it, period. So you want to fight for sovereignty? Fine, I'll back you up all the way. Because I am an old soldier. I'll go with you. But on the same regard, we need to protect whatever rights we have left before it's gone. I appreciate being enlightened by what happened in the past. What I care about is what we have now, what's remaining for my children and my mo'opunas, and the rest of our nation. That's what I care about, okay? We need to fix it. And like Uncle Danny said, all he's asking is, let us determine it, right? But in your regard, we need you to move as quickly as you can to get this done, okay? And again, I appreciate you coming over. I appreciate everybody else's comments. Mahalo to all. And I ask the Lord to bless this meeting, bless the Tulalip tribe, and after this is all over, let's all go back home safely. Mahalo to everyone.
Aloha kakou. My name is Ryder Henry Reinhardt Kuwipo Smith. I want to talk to you. Well, before I start, I want to ask Akula, or whatever spiritual people that you believe in, to bless us in this meeting. And I want to welcome the discussion from anybody here, no matter the sands of your birth. And I want to hear or help all of you in the sound of my voice to listen to what I have to say. I have three things. Well, before I do that, I want to mahalo the people that held this meeting for us Hawaiians to discuss our future. Out of this, there's three things that I want to talk to you about. First, what we Hawaiians were. Second, what we are now. And the third, what can we do for our future? What is the decision we have to make? First, what were we? When Kamehameha conquered all the islands, he really established a sovereign nation. Now, thank you to all the Native American tribes, but that's a different political situation than yours. We love you and we thank you for your support, but we had a different political situation. What is a sovereign nation? There's three things. You have a fixed border, you have a definite population identified, and you have international recognition. That Hawaiian nation had all three. It had a fixed border. Island chain from Big Island all the way to Midway, including Palmyra and Johnson Island to the south. That's our border. International recognition, 39 nations, including the United States of America, recognized us as a sovereign nation. Third, we had a definite population. Were they all indigenous? No. One of them is my ancestor, Isaac Davis. He was Hawaiian. He didn't have cocoa. The way a lot of you say, you have to be Hawaiian, you have to have the blood. No. Kamehameha said no. They're Hawaiian. After Kamehameha died, things got changed. But then Kamehameha III came along. And he did something that was different. Kamehameha I was an absolute monarch. Everything he said was law. He made every decision. When Kamehameha III came up, he formed a constitutional monarchy. If you go and read that Constitution, it's great. It's almost the same as the United States of America. Right? And it included other holidays. Nobody, some of them, no Hawaiian blood, but they were included. They were Hawaiians. Right? Now, we come to the last part. Actually, Kalakaua signed the Bayonet Constitution that reduced the power of the mo'i, or the king, gave it to the legislature. So when Liliuokalani came back, tried to reestablish the power of the king, she was, quote, overthrown. By whom? Primarily American businessmen that were elected to the legislature. Right? I call that regime change. It's not overthrow. Overthrow implies you're gone. That political is no longer there. But if it's regime change, you are under international law because you have relationship to other nations, and the adjudication for what happened is in the international court, not the Supreme Court of the United States. I read the preliminary things you put out for us. And he told the truth, mostly, not the whole truth. You said in the paper that the Republic of Hawaii ceded lands to the United States. Well, who the hell was the Republic of Hawaii? Who voted them in charge of Hawaii? Did any of your ancestors vote? They declared themselves the ownership of Hawaii. Well, that's funny, because that same illegal government asked the United States to be annexed as a territory. That's the truth. And for 4 years, the United States said no for 4 years. But then the Spanish-American War came on. And from that conflict, the United States says, we need a coaling station because we're fighting in the Philippines, and you can't sail all the way to the Philippines from the West Coast. So, by a voice vote of Congress, they accepted the annexation. Now there's a question. Was that a legal acceptance? You had one legal, recognized international country annexing another. Well, is there a dispute? Who adjudicates that? It's not the U.S. Supreme Court. It's the World Court. Okay? Now let me talk about that overthrow. And the paper you provided starts to define who we are as Hawaiians. They had a problem. The ceded lands wasn't owned by that republic. They were really owned by the crown, whoever was king. And they had government lands that were supposed to be for the people of Hawaii. Well, who is the people of Hawaii? It was Kanaka. Other citizens or subjects of the monarchy. All right? Now what? Is that the only ones? What about all the tourists that came in? What about the other people that flowed into Hawaii? There were what? Under 20,000 people? Most of them were subjects of the monarchy. So, products of the ceded land should go to them. But what about the rest of the people coming in from the United States? They move and live in Hawaii. Do they get the benefits of the ceded land? That's what the court said. All right? Now let's look at that. What are we going to do about it? There was something else that came about when they wanted to define who the native Hawaiians were. They passed a law, federal law from the United States, 50% blood quantum. Look around. Who has 50% blood quantum here? But guess what? None of my children, none of my grandchildren are Hawaiian by that definition. All right? So, what are we going to do about it? We have to form some government to make our claims, to identify who Hawaiians are. Now you have a problem here, because a lot of people say, you can have the koko. And I say, no. I say, any person that was a subject of the monarchy is eligible to be part of this new Hawaiian nation we want to form. So, in answer to your question, I say no. I don't want the Department of Interior to help us write a constitution. We can do it ourselves. We did it before. Twice, 3 times actually. We can do it. We don't need your help. Another thing, warning to those of you who are going to be part of that organization that's proposing to be a nation, a Hawaiian nation. It's not native nation. It's a Hawaiian nation because of the way I just told you. You are open to, or people are eligible if they are descendants of anyone, no matter what the Koko is, that descended from one of the subjects of the monarchy. So, again, in answer to DOI, no, we don't need your help. We need to form our own government with our own people and decide. Now, when that nation forms, they can write their own constitution. They have to determine who is Hawaiian. Because if you go to that Koko, then you're back to becoming a native Hawaiian again. And in that case, you should ask the DOI for help. Because look at the paper they sent out. They're there to help Native Hawaiians form their government. Key word is native. What's the definition? 50% black Koko. Well, wait a minute. They've gone through the process before. And the process is not race, blood, it's whoever you decide is part of your nation. Isn't that right? And if you do that, if you insist on the Koko and the blood, you might as well go the way they're recommending. But whoever forms our government, you have to decide. Which way do you want to go? Now, let's get back to reconciliation. No ands, if, or buts. We have to reconcile with the United States. You have to. Don't bring in anything else. Militarism and geo. Don't worry about that. That's beyond your pay grade. Just talk about the Hawaiian nation and your relationship to the United States of America. If we form our government, I want them to first ask. I want government-to-government relationship, but I want government-to-government relationship between us and the state of Hawaii. Why? Because they control the ceded lands. They are the trustees. What are you doing with the ceded lands? Where is the income that's flowing from that? Does it belong to everybody in Hawaii or to our Hawaiian nation? Secondly, what about the ocean between the Big Island and all the way up to Midway? If we own almost half of the land, which is the ceded land and the government land, shouldn't we own half of that ocean? That's rude. Who owns that ocean? The United States of America, not the state of Hawaii. So you have to have some reconciliation there. How do you do that? You have to form your own government and follow the court procedures. That's the way you have to go. And it's going to be long and hard because we don't even agree among ourselves. Out here, much less when you get a bunch of them back together in Hawaii. But that's what has to be done. So, I leave that to all of you to ponder, think about, and you can go back to the sands of your earth, wherever you come from, And I hope you have the support of Akua in making your decisions. Mahalo.
Mahalo to the Consolidated Tribes of Tulalip for hosting us, and mahalo to the panel from the DOI. I watched many of the testimony on video, and I know it calls upon all the powers of patience and aloha. I've been listening to all of my cohorts. I look to my maternal side, to my great-grandmother, Laila Kaanui from Waiakua, Maui, for my cultural roots as a Hawaiian. I come from the Aupua of Halawa on the island of Oahu. My name is Stanley Charles Darwin. I came today only to Ho'olono to listen, but I'm called to Waiakua to speak. I'm really a realist, and followed the sovereignty and movements for many, many years. Like Miley has said, there's division in my ohana, my older brother. Has been with the Hawaiian Kingdom movement since 20 years. He's listed as a comptroller, I think, for the Secretary of the Treasury for that kingdom, and he's near death. And nothing has happened, or we haven't had our sovereignty. And so as a realist, I know that we have to take every door, or have every door open, not close doors, and not move forward. And so to the first question, absolutely yes. We should allow the facilitation to take place. Whether we take it or not is immaterial. I'd much rather have that door open and have the choice whether to walk through it than not have it closed and never approach it. Like I said, I've followed the sovereignty movement for many, many, many years. Listened to tons and tons of presentations of how we can move forward, imua, but we haven't. And until we have some opportunity there, that's going to be the bait, the incentive for us as a Lahui to come together and do something. But if we continue to have a kingdom movement, the Kaka bill or whatever model that we have, we're never going to move forward. And so I do support that. I think Act 195 in the state of Hawaii is giving us a possible solution, but through Kanai Olovalu, at least it sets up a role so we know who we have. My keiki and my mo'opuna in Georgia and Montana, they're all over, but they still claim cultural ties to Hawaii. And I want them on the rolls, and I want them to have a voice, and I want them to have that option of choosing what kind of government, what kind of constitution, what kind of decision on what makes a Hawaiian. You know, we need that process, and we need them to do that. I want them to remain culturally tied to Hawaii. And so, in summary, I will have a more detailed comment that supports the DOI facilitation on it, but I certainly will have lots of caveats on the guidance that you can follow in the facilitation process. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Aloha. My name is Kavika Villa. I live on Oahu currently. I wasn't able to make any of the hearings on Oahu, and I'm traveling here for business. And I was happy to hear that a hearing was going to be, or a meeting, or whatever you call this, was going to be arranged while I was in Washington. it's difficult for me to, I'm one of the people who it's difficult for me to make a decision. I don't know, you know. I hear what a lot of people are saying about different things, and for me, I'm not mild either way. I'm not too familiar with what kingdomhood is, except for the fact that when I drive around the island, I might see some Onipa stuff up around, and when I have talked to some of the people who have been there, I got people telling me that they're supposed to be king, you know, and I cannot get behind that. You're not my king, bro, you know. When it comes to these meetings that we've had on Oahu, I mean, you can see that if you can go online and watch the hearings at different websites online, but you can see that there were hundreds of people who showed up, and you know, like right now, I see people going over the 3 minutes or the 5 minutes or whatever, and they're being allowed to because we're in a smaller forum. But back there, it was 2 minutes, and they were trying to get people to stop after 2 minutes, and it's because there was a lot of people that wanted to talk, and we had to respect the time of the people on the DOI. But to me, the meetings were set up already in a culturally insensitive way, in a sense where you're limiting people to how long they can express their opinions on this topic. And that's not how it would have been done. I don't believe that that's how it was done when Grover Cleveland sent his people down, and they came to the decision that Native Hawaiians did not want to be annexed to the U.S. and that they should remain a kingdom. And if that president couldn't get it done, then I have a hard time believing that even Obama can get it done. I feel like the hearings were held from June to August, and now on August 19th, all decisions have to be made. I don't feel like that's enough time. As people have mentioned, there are many atrocities that have been committed against Native Hawaiians that are unsettled. Iwi Kupuna and all of that stuff. I feel like in this process, we're being told that you can ask us permission of whether you can determine your own self-governance. You can ask us permission, is what I feel like this process is about. And I understand the people who are strong in the Onipa movement saying, I'm gonna ask you nothing, you know? And I feel that sense too. I don't feel like I really gotta ask you whether I can be Hawaiian or not. I don't feel like I gotta sign up for a roll call so that somebody can tell me that I'm Hawaiian. I don't feel like even if I moved somewhere out of the country to the to Germany or wherever it was, I can still be Hawaiian. You cannot tell me when and where I can be Hawaiian, or and I especially agree with Blood Quantum that it only divides Hawaiians, and that it's not conducive to us moving forward. There's so many different opinions and groups that even to make a decision on this right now is untimely, because we haven't come together to decide what it is that we want for ourselves as a whole, and that process is going to take a long time. I hear Kupuna back on Oahu saying that they want to see a decision in their lifetime, and that would be great, but I don't believe that I would see a decision in my lifetime. You know, it's been talked about OHA and how OHA is a state agency, and you know, even their benefits don't reach the people, the natives or the Kanaka on the continent or elsewhere, but in Hawaii. But their benefits don't reach but the decisions reach. You know, the rules that they create, those reach, but their benefits don't reach. I think, you know, we've had a problem in finding the Kanaka that would be really good leaders. And I'm unaware of who those Kanaka are in my generation, in their 30s. I'm unaware of who they are. And I don't know who it is gonna be after us. And I think that that's important for us to find out who those people are. Because I don't agree with a lot of the things that OHA is doing right now, and how they're representing Native Hawaiians. You know, I want benefits that currently exist for Native Hawaiians to continue, but it's difficult for me to answer yes to the question because of how the question is being proposed to me. It's difficult for me to say, yes, I would like you to grant me permission to determine who I am and who my son will be and who his children will be. I find difficulty in that. And I feel like I would fight to preserve whatever those benefits are anyway, whether we exist as a nation within a nation, or whether we maintain who we are right now, or whether we became our own sovereign people. I would fight for those benefits either way, no matter what the federal status of the U.S. is on Native Hawaiians. But I think one thing that I'm appreciative of for the DOI and all of this is that it has caused me to learn and think more. And I think that's what it's doing for a lot of Hawaiians. And I hope that's what it's doing for younger Hawaiians. Because this really is something that's going to affect us for a long time. And the topic of land, how this doesn't address land, is again inherent in the whole. It is an inherent problem in the whole process, because land is everything to us. If we're not talking about land, then what are we talking about? If we're not talking about who's going to control the land, then we're not resolving anything at that point. The land means everything. You know, when I talk to my friends that are Irish or English or whatever they are, they cannot understand the concept of having love for my land, aloha aina. They're like, yeah, my family's from Ireland, but I don't know anything about it. You know, I can trace my ancestry to a plant. You know, if I go by the kumulipo, I came from the ground. So it's tough to have these discussions with people who don't understand the mindset to me, and therefore I feel like there's more education that needs to happen on both ends in order for us to even approach this topic that we're discussing right now. I don't have an answer for this, and I probably won't have an answer by August 19th, but I don't feel like I need to give an answer. Thanks.
Okay. So I appreciate all the input too. I think we're having a really good discussion here. And I just want to say, like, when we were putting this together, this is our best effort to try to reach out and ask questions first and to get responses. So, you know, you mentioned if it doesn't involve land, and what is it doing? You know, what we would urge you to do is, in the written comments, give us suggestions. You know, we're asking, so instead of framing a question, if you guys have ideas or thoughts about, you know, anything, like put it in an affirmative statement and say, you guys should do this, you guys should do that, because we don't know everything. And there's a team of us at the federal government that there's like maybe 8 or 9 people drafting this, and it took forever just to get anything out the door, so we realize there's time constraints, but I just want to say we appreciate the discussion, and I'm just happy to hear, everybody speak their mind.
If I have to give a comment on, or a suggestion, or my suggestion about what to do with the land, and my simple suggestion is, give it back. Give it back.
Testing. Hey, teamwork. Aloha, my name is Paul Gumapak. And actually, everyone says beautiful things. When Ulu here came up fighting with sovereignty and mana. Mana's strong power there. I love that. That's awesome. And the fact that we can discuss what steps to take. Miley Lona was right, where she said, Imua, just go forward. We haven't, Uncle Danny said, we haven't closed that door yet. Take an option, take a choice. We want the benefits of OHA. The Hawaiian housing for the land. We applied. I cannot even pass it on to my wife. That blood quantum, if you guys can go to Congress and force them to bring it down to 1/32nd, you've already fought in our favor. Put Hawaiians on the lands. That's what we want, right? So if you guys are in the government, Department of the Interior, I would vote yes to start a process. I'm not against sovereignty. I'm pro-sovereignty. You can fight on both angles. It doesn't stop us from moving forward as a people. Okay, so you take this thing and you say, okay, it's a good vehicle. We have all good vehicles, it's just not being operated properly. OHA's not a bad vehicle. It can be worked. It's just that they're too, what's the word? No, don't go there. That's strong. They're conservative. We want them to be super liberal. If you have Hawaiian descendancy, you deserve a home. You deserve to be put on that land. We're the descendants. And Brother Ryder said, oh, who's to say cocoa is enough? That's true. This fact that it says Native Hawaiian, it could be a political trick. Like he said, Hawaiian nation. All those in their hearts who love Hawaii, who want to learn the language, the border, the culture, that's us. And you cannot shut out the sovereignty guys, the movement guys. We can move as a two-pronged force. Let them both go. But I say, let's move, like Mani said, in more. We all want the benefits. Where's the money going to come from? We're all afraid of change. But it's not really change, it's transformation. Give the right people the right chance to get in the right places. Our state government is an entity, right? If we could tell these guys who are in state, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, BS, stop. We're Hawaiian nationals. If no one has ever asked them, can you step in us for us to be our proxy? Talk government to government? Now, I know you said either yes or no. Anything after that is an opinion. I will say yes to open the door. You never shut a door. Because you can always go, I like this door. I like being American, but I also love being Hawaiian. That's who I am. If I see my flag, I brought my flag here. I said, this is me. I like Hawaii. I like America. I like football, baseball, whatever. But I am Hawaiian. Whether I have blood quantity or not, your attitude that you love the place that you're at, you allegiance yourself to the land, the songs, the stories, everything that we are, we're Hawaii. So this two-pronged attack is, you take what they have, the Department of the Interior, go to Congress, please bring that quantity down. If you can prove, for those who want the home, 1/32nd, like Prisco Hill said, why not? You guys have power. Go get the legislators, change that blood quantum, bring it down. Put Hawaiians on the land. Isn't that what you want? That's a portion of government. That's a two-pronged attack. You have vehicles and entities that need to be moved in the right way. Anyway, I'm babbling. Aloha.
My name is Shelley Roberts. My husband is Hawaiian, my husband of the past 5 years, and so I've been brought into the culture through him. I've worked the past 35 years in Indian country as a paralegal and as the executive assistant to the chairman of a tribe north of here. I have gone through all the issues with enrollment, with government, with sovereignty. I understand your distress with this. I agree with this gentleman here that yes, you need to vote yes on the administrative rule and keep that door open. And then you can work within yourselves to establish what it is you want to do. I do not agree that they only give you 2 months to make your decisions. I don't agree with you that you need to respect the time of the Department of Interior. They need to respect your time. I believe that not only should they have done the meetings in Hawaii, they should do them in every single state in the mainland and give the notice to all Hawaiians to come together and hear this and comment. The only way I was able to find out about this was working for a tribal leader and getting a notice that went to tribal leaders for tribal leader consultation on a Hawaiian issue. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Gentle lady here.
Aloha. My name is Ku'ule Kawanoi, and I am Hawaiian, from Hawaii, born and raised. And with my husband, moved to military and ended up being in the military and ended up here in Washington. I have family in Hawaii, and my concerns are for my family, and also my kupunas was here, and also my mo'opunas. Okay? You know, we're getting old, and I feel a lot of our kupunas say, I want to go home, I want to go home. But they have no place. Okay? I am for that because I wanted to reach people who are in the continental United States. I want them to be able to go home to Hawaii like we want to go home, but we have no place. Okay? So I am for recognition. I wanted to reach everybody. I want my mo'opunas to know, yes, I am Hawaiian and I can go Hawaii. I am a part of Hawaii. They are always reaching out to me. Okay? I have a granddaughter that when she was young and she felt out of place going to school, she said, I'm going home because I know King Kamehameha loves me. And that I will never forget. She knows where she is from. Okay? They're opening a door for us. And we need to go. We need to move on. We need to move forward. My family, my ancestors, they are on that petition. And they signed it. And they fought their battles there. I have a kupuna who went to jail because he stood with the Queen. And I am so very proud of him. And I want him to be proud of me that I'm telling my people, we need to move. Because we're not going to move anywhere by keep fighting and fighting. Let's get into the government, let's set up our government, and we rule ourselves. We make our rules. We want to change the blood quantum to 132, then let us make the rules that change it. And we're not going to make the rules if we keep standing here and saying, no, no, shut the door. Okay? That is the only opening we have, and we need to take it. Time is of essence. We've never had a president to support us as we have now. 2016, he's going to be out. So it is important that we move fast. It is important that we go ahead, move forward. It may not happen in my generations, but I want my mo'opunas to have it. I want them to have it. So I ask that, hey, look around, really think things out. Read your histories, and yes, this is what happened. And we cannot have it all the way it used to be. But let's move forward and try and get what we can get and establish our own government for us to protect our interests. Okay? Protect our interests, to take care of the Hawaiian people. Thank you, mahalo. And I thank you all for being here and bringing this meeting to us.
Hi, my name is Eli Yim. I'm native Hawaiian. I live up here in Seattle now with my wife and children. And first I want to start and say mahalo to the Tulalip for hosting today and giving us this opportunity to meet with one another and speak. And I also want to thank the DOI for hosting the meeting here today. I think it was in the opening comments that Ms. Romero talked about the toxic political environment that we are in now, and I think she was referring to the Obama administration and the toxic environment that exists between Democrats and Republicans. And it's funny because I see the toxic political environment today as one between insiders and outsiders, and empowered people and disempowered people. And I think those are the dichotomies that Indigenous people are very familiar with. And so what I'm hearing and what I've read of the who and the why behind the proposed rulemaking, it's just not satisfactory for me. Whether we talk about the Hawaiian congressional delegation, I see it as the Hawaii congressional delegation. The OHA trustees, these are people that are voted on solely and elected into office solely by current residents of Hawaii. And so I don't have a voice in that, in those people and their place in office. And the refrain I'm hearing, I think historically, is the same that we've always heard, right? Trust us, we know what's best for you. Or, we have a small window in time here. It's an old sales tactic, right? That if you walk out the door, the deal may not be here anymore. And so, as a community, we can't risk everything just to claim something, right? We can't, we want to imua something, but for what, right? Who has something to lose here? And the answer is Native Hawaiians. Who has something to gain? To me, my answer right now, based on what I've seen and heard and read, is, people who are positioning themselves politically to gain, but not the people. And what exactly is there for the people to gain? We don't know. Okay, so, I'm skeptical about it. I have nothing but love and aloha for people on both sides of the issue. People who love Hawaii and who carry Hawaii in their hearts. This is empowering for me just to be in a room with people who share that love. But a valid claim is a valid claim. A valid claim now will be a valid claim 10 years from now. And I know people don't want to hear that, but I don't believe that we should adhere to someone else's process or someone else's timeline just for the sake of expediency. I'm not saying don't risk to move forward, but I am saying if we're the only ones bearing the disproportionate risk, then we better make sure that it's right. And so I say I'll vote no to all 5 questions.
Hello, my name is Michael Alvarez, and first of all I want to acknowledge the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands we are now visitors, and yes, thank you. I hope you don't mind if I sit. I wasn't planning to speak, and it's easier for me to read my chicken scratch if I sit. I am a citizen of the United States. I'm here as a member of the general public, and I'm here, sad to say, as a citizen of an occupier nation. As a non-native Hawaiian, ultimately, I will defer to what the majority of Native Hawaiians say about this issue. But based on the research I've done and the comments I've heard, what I've been learning, and that's an ongoing process, a learning process. I would answer the first threshold question in the negative. No, because there is an ongoing illegal occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom by the United States. So the proper discussion is not about reestablishing a government-to-government relationship. And that's more accurately stated as a government within a government relationship. Government, it's kind of a sneaky phrase. It seems like there's parity there, like where there's a conversation among equals. The proper discussion is about reestablishing a nation-to-nation relationship. And of course the proper parties on behalf of the U.S. for this conversation would be the Secretary of State, not the Secretary of the Interior. All of these legal arguments have been laid out brilliantly by Native Hawaiian scholars and activists. I don't need to go over them. Native Hawaiians can obviously speak for themselves, and they do so brilliantly, compassionately, intelligently. And so my message to my government is we need to listen to them. But not in this forum, not from this framework, not as a master listens to the grievance of a slave, not as a king listens to the grievances of its subjects, as an equal listens to an equal. We need to listen as one nation listens to another nation. If we listen, for example, I used to think that the U.S. had legally annexed Hawaii. I always knew that it was an immoral overthrow, but something could be immoral and yet legal. But again, doing research, I've come to realize that's wrong. To use the analogy that a noted Hawaiian scholar uses, the U.S. is claiming to have adopted Hawaii, but they can't produce the adoption papers. I used to also think that things have been this way for so long that it's just impractical to go back. Why look backward? It's not a realist's position. Again, I was disabused of this notion just by listening to Native Hawaiians. It's easier than you might think. So let's not disregard these truths, these statements about the illegal occupation. Let's not brush them aside by saying they're not within the scope of this framework. Well, let's fix the framework. Report to your superiors and tell them, hey, we weren't the proper arm of government to be having this conversation. There's been a lot of talk about doors also. Well, you do not merely open a door for someone without expecting to herd them through it. And that's what this feels like, the railroading. That door is not going to be closed. That door is a settlement. That's what the U.S. wants. So that door is never going to be closed. It's their way out. They have a tough burden to meet. In the U.S., we can't meet that burden. We can't produce those adoption papers. Mahalo. Thank you.
A couple of things before the next speaker. So let me just underscore, government is a powerful thing. What does it mean to have a government-to-government relationship? And maybe this is going to be helpful to flesh this concept out. The United States has a relationship, a government-to-government relationship with 566 tribes in the United States. We've heard a lot of feedback from folks both in the mainland as well as in the islands. Well, what does that mean for us as a community? What does it mean to organize as a government? Well, my response is it means a lot because it gives a community, if they organize as a government, power. It gives them power to have a seat at the table on equal footing with the United States to negotiate over very important things. What are those things? The disposition of lands, the disposition of natural resources, things that are important to the inherent nature of the Native Hawaiian community. Right now, the Native Hawaiian community, they're not organized as a government, so they don't have that seat at the table. They don't even have the option of taking a seat to talk to the United States about these very, very important issues that are so very critical to the essence of the Native Hawaiian community. And I'm not saying that because I know, I'm saying that because this is what I've learned from the community of going out to the islands, hearing individuals speak their truths, and talk about why that is so very important to them. So I really feel like it's important to get it out there and to talk about how forming as a government doesn't mean you're giving up anything. In fact, when my tribe formed as a government and had a government-to-government relation in the United States, didn't mean that we ceased to exist as a people. We were just better organized, and we had a seat at the table to negotiate over our lands. So I'm not saying that that makes it right. I'm just saying it's important to recognize that being a government is a powerful thing, and it can be a tool in order to exercise self-governance and self-determination over the things that are important to the Native Hawaiian community. The gentleman that spoke before, the last speaker, talked about timing, and that Native Hawaiians, why should they be the ones bearing the risk? The Department of Interior is not forcing anything on the Native Hawaiian community. We're simply presenting options. It's our understanding that Native Hawaiians have been seeking to organize as a government for a very long time. And it is at this moment in time, it's at this critical juncture, during the Obama administration, that we've even come to a point where we can have this conversation with the Native Hawaiian community. Before now, there's been no dialogue. And I think that it's incumbent on us, and I'm speaking as a federal official of the Obama administration, that we present the option to the community, because that's all it is. And if the option is promulgated and a rule is proposed, it'll be on the books until a Native Hawaiian government, whatever that looks like, because it's going to be steered by the community. The United States won't have a role. Whatever government then forms can then knock on the door. Just knock on it. Right now you can't even knock. So we're not hurting. We're not hurting anybody through any door. It's just simply an option.
That's the problem. We're asking for a seat at the table, but we own the table. We're asking if we should walk through the door, but that's our building.
We deoccupy everything you said both true and some.
So this is a path. There are many paths that can be taken. It's not for the United States to determine what path the Native Hawaiian community wants to go down. It's just one path of perhaps many paths.
Why is there no mention of land? I mean, if you have this government entity, why should we believe that it's just not going to continue on? Say, for example, the Department of Hawaiian Homeland now only has 200,000 acres to allot to Native Hawaiians who are determined to be Native Hawaiians under the 50% quantum. Initially, when that act was passed, right, Prince Kukio was trying to allot 800,000 acres, right? But then when they went to Congress, it then was reduced to 200,000 acres, right? So what do we have? Like Auntie said, she wants to have a place back home, right? As Native Hawaiians or as Hawaiian subjects, Hawaiian nationals, want to have access to land. But why should we believe that we actually have access to aina, to land, and that we can afford housing and all of these things based on what you're telling us? It just sounds like, well, there's the 200,000 acres that is governed by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. What about the 800,000 acres? What about the 1.8 million acres of Crown lands, right? You're not even mentioning anything about this in the
in the kind of how you're structuring it. So when well, I don't like the nods either, because I feel like you're interpolating.
I'm
But,
just saying I understand.
I mean, you speak really eloquently and lovely and nice, and you give really nice smiles, and you're convincing a lot of Hawaiians in the audience that, we are your friends, but it's kind of like, somebody getting you to do drugs for the first time. It's like, it's like, come, you're gonna love it, it's gonna be great. But then when you take it and you end up mocking it, or you have a really bad trip or something like that, that's what it's like really problematic. I mean, the whole framework, it's not a lovely, like, we're gonna, you're gonna have a seat at the table, you're gonna have parity with the US government, and I think it's great that your people in 1934 was able to establish, a seat at the table, but we have our own table. That's what we're trying to establish. We're trying to get Kanakas to understand. We have a table and it's made out of koa, okay? Not this like junk kind IKEA pine, or petrified wood, but it's actually koa. So why are you trying to ask for permission when you already have the power? You already have the mana. So why are you advocating that mana to an institution or to a framework that really wants you to disappear? They want you to disappear vis-a-vis blood quantum, the 50% blood quantum. As Uncle was saying, you never had to have blood quantum in order to be determined to be Hawaiian, So why are you advocating your own mana for an institution that really wants you to disappear? They want you to concede to US rules so they can say, okay, all claims are closed. Hawaiians have made their decision. You know what? There's no problem now, we can just do what we want. That means it's going to be continuing occupation of the island. It's going to be the same hardships. It's going to be the prison industrial complex. It's going to be all of these things. It's just going to continue.
Thank you. And just because we're real short on time, we want to make sure that everybody that hasn't had a chance to speak has an opportunity to speak. So is there anybody that hasn't spoken yet that wants to make a statement? So we have about 15 minutes left. No? Okay, we'll move to second statements.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I gotta make you walk all the way back this
No problem, no problem.
Yeah, okay. My name's, let me talk back over here real quick. Gabriel Malcanani Reyes Gomez, if you wasn't here earlier. Okay, so I wanted to thank you for your responses to my concerns earlier, and for real, I know it gets tense in here, but outside of this room, as an indigenous person, much respect. Inside of here though, you're functioning as an extension of the Department of Interior. And for that, I don't think it is your place to give your opinion on how federal recognition can benefit us, because it's confusing. You are a part of the government, and for that, we can't trust you. That just can't work like that. We cannot trust somebody that's been kicking our ass for so long. And even though that you are an indigenous person within an overpowering institution, that's great. If you can climb it and dismantle it, awesome, but it's so hard. It's so hard to take those things seriously. And I think a larger concern for a lot of people, quantum, all that kind of stuff, and sovereignty, I'm glad that you brought up that we can fight for federal recognition and also fight for sovereignty. It's great to expand the way we think of Hawaiian independence and Hawaii's future as a people. We come back to this, the process. It is weird, the continuous interruptions of why you think that federal recognition could benefit us. Still confusing. A lot of our people here keep talking about doors opening and closing, and that we need to rush now while we have a president in office. But back when our queen had begged the United States There was a president in office who liked us, and then when he got out of office, the door closed and we got messed up with. So what is to say that that's not going to happen to us again? What is to say that when we get federal recognition and Obama is out and the administration is out, that the next president won't take the same type of advantage of our federal recognition to continue their shadiness? We don't have to talk about it in theory, in books, watch it on TV. A lot of us grew up watching our lands being destroyed, watching politicians take what they like, watching people come in and tell us how we got a framework and think about each other and talk about each other and do all this kind of stuff. Mahalo to the guy back there, I forgot your name, but thank you for speaking up on behalf of the United States, because even the United States itself cannot acknowledge and just simply say we messed up with more than the Native Hawaiians, all the indigenous people of this country. There's so much more healing to go on, and to continuously talk about it as if it's a positive process or that, oh, it's humbug, but we keep pressing forward and it's great for everybody. It's not. There's ridiculous stuff like buyback programs for the Department of Interior. Any of you guys know that? Well, you gotta buy back your land, buy back the land that got stolen.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right now, you guys are in here, you're listening to us as an extension of the Department of Interior. Everybody's saying this is taking too restricted of a time, August. Take that. Take those suggestions. Stop telling us that, oh, okay, well, we know, federal recognition could benefit you. We know that. Some of us know that, some of us don't, and we can learn from each other. Right now, this is what we're saying. We're confused, we like more time. We're thankful for the opportunity, but don't keep telling us the door is gonna close or whatever, that kind of stuff, you know? If there's gonna be a door closing, then why are you even there? Is it a revolving door? Are we're gonna use different types of ways of describing our relationship here? It's confusing.
I'd like to just note that the question is, should they propose an administrative rule that would facilitate the reestablishment of the government-to-government relationship with the Native Hawaiian community? This is just an answer they need. Should they do a rule, then the community can decide if you want to be federally recognized and what as the tribal nations do, your enrollment processes would be, your base rule that you would set. That would be your decisions, not the government's. They're just asking to make the administrative rule to facilitate if you need that. And that would keep the door open if you needed them to help you. That is the basic question that I see on the first 5 questions. And working with tribal nations, you make your own decisions. You establish your government, or if you want to go back to a kingdom, you establish that. You establish all your rules and regulations. They are just wanting to know if an administrative rule should be set in place to facilitate, if you want to open the door and ask them to help facilitate.
Can I just say something?
Okay, we have like 3 minutes, so please keep it short, okay?
Although Ululani Robbins, I also have my own firms in Clearwater, Florida, and Kirkland, Washington. I just wanted to, mention that the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act has been in effect since 1920. Ask yourselves, it's been 94 years and you still don't have a house in Hawaii. So really think about what direction you're going to. You still don't have a house in Hawaii, and the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act has been in force, in effect since 1920. That's 94 years. So really consider it. I am a real property expert. It's something that's serious, because obviously a lot of Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians who are Hawaiian nationals live outside of home, which is Hawaii. Mahalo.
Now, final word, quick. I've read your handout that you put out there, okay? And every word that always says Native Hawaiians. I told you before, Hawaiian nation did not include all Native Hawaiians. And that's the difference. You can choose who you are by the proposition that you have. And we can choose non-blood quantum by your rules. But you cannot, as part of the Department of the Interior, expand land that is out there. According to your input that I read, you cannot. So why should we go you? And that's my final comment.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of people that want to make comments, so if we can just promise to keep them really brief, just to close up, okay?
Just really quick, I really appreciate that President Obama wants to do something and it recognizes that there is a history of injustice. But to borrow some of his words from his campaign, yes, we can be an independent country. There is a process of deoccupation under international law. There are experts that will tell us, you know, how this can happen. It's a unique situation that Hawaii has, but we can do it. We don't have to settle for what they're telling us, you know, we might be able to have. We can be an independent nation. Look at South Africa, how they overthrew apartheid. Look at how in this country, I mean, major changes they happen. You just have to believe.
Okay, we'll just take two more quick things.
Just a little clarification to show that they weren't only Hawaiians. The Minister of Finance under Kalakaua, whose name was Fong Ah Fong, pure Chinese, and who became the Makun family, who owned huge parts of Dining Head, and got very rich, but direct descendant of Fong Ah Fong. In fact, I think his cousin Eden wrote the play 13 Daughters, if any of you are old enough to remember that play. But you know the song Puka Puka Pants? That's from the play. It was on Broadway, and from a pure Chinese family initiative. Wow. Thank you.
I started this morning, ours is not a perfect world. And this is not necessarily the perfect option. But the big thing is that to make this world as perfect as we want it to be, we need to be involved. And my only comment to all of you is get involved. Whether it's pro or con, we have to be involved. We can't look back and say, man, they made us do that. No, we need to make ourselves. So anyway, again, mahalo to all for coming, and again, get involved.
Okay, thank you. We started this morning, Vice Chair Deborah Parker came in from Tulalip tribe. She spoke to all you guys and she opened the session and she said she hopes that everybody speaks with their heart, their truths, and I think everybody did. And we appreciate these chances to come and convene and hear from you guys. And it's a really important process, and what we're putting out there. It's really important for us to come out here and hear what you guys are thinking and what you guys are what's in your heart about the proposal out there. So we appreciate it. And we know it's a work day for a lot of you guys, so you took time off of work. The gentleman here said he's traveling, so he had other duties, for his job, but this was important enough for him to make the time to come here. So we appreciate that and we acknowledge it. And, right now, August 19th is the date that's out there. We hear you loud and clear, We've heard a lot in the sessions that we've had that, the timeline is short. And so we'll go back and we'll acknowledge that. And we'll tell our superiors, like you noted, that August 19th is a short time frame. That's what we've been hearing. So, once again, thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Derek, before we end the session, we have a couple representatives from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs here who'd like to make a few words, take some time to say a few words.
Aloha mai kakou. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure being here. I am Carmen Hulu Lindsay, and I'm here in my capacity as a trustee of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. When we were invited to come up, we were really coming up for tribal consultation. I am just so overwhelmed and thrilled to see all you Hawaiians here. It's such a pleasure to hear personally from you all, to know how you feel. It's so important to us. This is a very difficult mission for us. There's a fence all over the place, and we're sitting on that fence trying to make the right decisions for our lahui. I'd like to turn the time over to a member of our staff, our Chief Advocate, Mr. Kavika Riley. He's going to share the position of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Mahalo, Trustee. Aloha mai kakou. I want to mahalo the Consolidated Tulalip Tribe leadership for the opportunity to be here, for welcoming all of us and giving us the chance to have this conversation on your sovereign land. I want to mahalo the other tribal representatives and leadership. I want to aloha and mahalo all of the Native Hawaiians who are here. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and to everyone in attendance, in fact. As Trustee said, we are honored to be part of this conversation. My name is Kavika Riley. I'm the Chief Advocate for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I was born in Kohala and raised in Kohala and then later in Kona. I spent 12 years on the continent before I had the opportunity to bring my family home and play my role as a public servant with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And, just speaking personally, if I may, we struggled to make that opportunity happen, to move home. I went to college on the continent because it's something that my ohana wanted me to do. And they wanted me to do that because they said they wanted better opportunities for me. They said, go, and then decide if you want to come back. I always wanted to come back, but it took 12 years. I'm lucky to have an education, to have an undergraduate's degree, a master's degree. I'm lucky to have fallen in love with another Kanaka on the continent who had a law degree. And even with all of those privileges, it took us years to bring our family home. And I believe that part of that is because we as Native Hawaiians don't have the right opportunities. We don't have with the power, with the force of law, the opportunities to make the kind of decisions that we deserve to make in our Hawaii, to make Hawaii a place that is friendlier for its indigenous peoples, that makes more opportunities for its first people. And that's part of why I feel so grateful to get to have a role at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. This is the third consultation on the U.S. continent that I've been able to participate in. And everywhere that we've went, we've seen Hawaiians from the continent come to listen, to speak, to learn. In Rapid City, South Dakota, a mother drove all the way from Littleton. Having lived in Colorado for 4 years, I know that's a long drive. From Littleton, Colorado, just to listen and to bring her daughter, so her daughter can hear and choose to be part of the discussion. It's made me think about how much of our community is now here on the continent and why. And what so many of us want to do to make it a choice, but not something that we feel like we're forced into, to have to leave our own soil, the land where our ihikupuna is buried. Sorry. And it's also caused me to think about the limits of what's constructed in the place that I've been so privileged to work for. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs was born in 1978. It was an amendment through the state's constitution to try to address some of the issues that our community suffered. But from the beginning, it was an attempt to address those issues through what was available at the state level. So even at the very beginning, in the first 20 years, when OHA's elections were determined by the Native Hawaiian people, so they chose the trustees who stewarded, who were the fiduciaries of the Native Hawaiian Trust. It was just those of us who were in the state. From the very beginning, our brothers and sisters on the continent weren't able to be part of that self-determination because it was a state-level solution. In 2000, as many of you know, in the Supreme Court case, Rice v. Cayetano, things were changed even further. And even those of us on the island became a minority vote in determining who stewarded the Native Hawaiian Trust. Only 1 out of 5 eligible voters for the OHA elections are the Native Hawaiians who are the beneficiaries of the Native Hawaiian Trust that we work to steward. But that's the construct that we're in right now. And for those who feel like OHA doesn't do enough on the continent, I hear you. But it's what's constructed right now. You want to have a say in how the Native Hawaiian Trust is used. You want to have a say in how those assets are utilized and the policies that are given. You have an opportunity to do that through the construct that's being discussed today, through the government-to-government relationship. You don't like what OHA is doing, you can put us out of business in that respect. You know, we've looked at and we've learned from other nations, over 560 of them. The Potawatomi Nation, for example, most of its legislators, the way that it districts itself, most of its legislators do not live within the reservation land. They did that because it reflected the value that they placed on including their citizens where they were. And most of their citizens weren't there on the original land. That option should be on the table for us. All Native Hawaiians, wherever you are, you're Hawaiian, you should have a say in how our assets are used. This is a chance to do that. For that reason and for others, the position of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, as decided through our trustees, is to strongly support moving forward in this conversation. To have the opportunity to see what you come forward with. Right now, we're in the ANPRM, was the acronym that Jennifer used. They're not coming to the table with a proposal, they're asking us questions. The next stage is that they go back, they review our mana'o, our ike, and they come back with a proposal. I want to see what that looks like, so I can make an informed decision as an individual, so that Hawaiian organizations can make informed decisions and say yes or no to something specific, not no to continuing the conversation. I want to see what's on the table. The trustees identified that this is a viable opportunity to protect Native Hawaiian assets, rights, resources, and programs at the public and the private level, including those that were preserved by our ali'i and stewarded through generations, as well as the federal programs that are available, which provide many benefits. This is also an opportunity for Native Hawaiians to have control over those resources, so that it's not Washington, D.C. bureaucrats who are deciding how the $30+ million in the Native Hawaiian education program is administered. No, it should be Native Hawaiians through a vehicle that they created, that they determined, a Native Hawaiian governing entity. So for these and for other reasons, OHA's position is one of strong support. We hope to continue the conversation and see what the U.S. government has to offer. Mahalo again to you all for your time. It's a privilege to be here with you. Aloha.
I want to thank everybody again for coming out here. I appreciate everything that we've heard. At this time, I guess we're adjourned. Thank you.
Le Hawaii e kuone hanau e ku home ku Oli nova ina pornolani e Hawaii aloha e haoli na o piro Hawaii Hawaii.